Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV podcast 513. Terry. I'll get my name. Terry, it's terrible. Joined alongside Johnny V.
Yeah.
Johnny V.
That's easy to say.
Gotcha.
We've known each other for 30 years, Terry. Since we were like 14.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got my name down. You haven't got yours down.
That's what a lot of talking we'll do. Well, we just got done talking, and no spoilers here, but we were just moments ago, we were guests on another podcast. Somebody else wanted to hear us talk more. That's crazy. But we were guests. Seth Fenley is working on some stuff, a little bit of history and background to some early days of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I'm not sure exactly which day. It may be one of these Saturdays coming up in the next few weeks, but we were guests over there giving a little history and background to early days of Smashbox. Oh, memory lane. Thinking that was 10 years ago now is a whole nother story and plenty crazy. So
yeah, he asked me some questions, and I was like, I have to think back to what I was thinking back then. Not even what we did, but how, I don't know, man. It's all fuzzy.
It certainly is. Good thing I've got a copy of your diary, so I can always know what you were thinking. But tonight, we don't have to do as much thinking because we're going to have some much smarter people joining us on the show. And that's, I think, somewhere there's a pro tip in there. Is like when you're not bright, just surround yourself with smarter people. Yeah. And yet I fail every week with you.
I'm here every time. Who's the smart? You admitted earlier today that you cheated off me in college. So
that's true.
So maybe that makes you the smarter one. I don't know.
Well, one way to look at it. Well, nonetheless, we're going to have the co-founders of TechDisc. In fact, they're going to join us in just a few moments. But super excited. We'll cover all of the things that went on internationally and talk about some scores and some big events, including the Majestic also that happened just about 5 hours from our backyard. So congratulations to all those people and everything else. We'll break down all of that. But first, we've got coming to the show from TechDisc, we've got Michael and John, Michael Sizemore and John Carino. You just go by Carino, huh?
Yeah. There's a lot of Johns out there.
there are. That's another story for another day. All right. Well, welcome in, gentlemen.
I love this because we're going to get into some techie stuff. I'm an IT manager by day. I do a little bit of website development at night. I've got all sorts of mediocre questions. I'd like to call them good, but you never know. We'll see. So this is right up my alley.
Well, we'll see how it goes. First of all, let's start with the basics and get just a little bit of background from you guys. I know some people have seen you specifically out there, Michael, in front of some of the cameras, behind some of the cameras. But let's start with you, Michael, and give us a little backstory to how we're arriving at you being a co-founder of TechDisc.
Sure. So, yeah, I've been at a couple Pro Tour events, but under a different tent. So I used to work for Bushnell. I was an electrical engineer for Bushnell, and I've been a disc golfer for 15 years, although now it's really more like 20 years. And so I started to push them into disc golf and really got that effort off the ground. And so since no one else was really leading that, I kind of ran that until I left to join John at TechDisc. So really that's where I came from, was an electrical engineering background and a love of disc golf. I got a little taste of the disc golf business side at Bushnell, and then started looking for someone just like Carino.
Well, before we head over to Carino here, were you the man mainly responsible for introducing disc golf to Bushnell, a company that's been around for a long time, making a ton of great products, but were you that guy that introduced them to disc golf and helped develop ultimately the rangefinder for it?
Yeah, I was that guy. I wasn't the only disc golfer inside of Bushnell, but I was that guy that asked yes enough times, or asked to get into disc golf enough times that someone finally said yes.
Just so you stop bothering them. Like, okay, fine, we'll give this a shot. We'll give this a shot.
What has, seeing how popular rangefinders are, whether it's Bushnell's or some of the other brands, and as they continue to develop and come out, what has that been like knowing you were, really at the forefront of of helping bring them into disc golf to the scale in which they are here now, especially considering they were illegal to use during play for so many years until that rule got changed. But what's that like, knowing you were one of the catalysts to seeing that?
I mean, it sounds good to hear you say that. I wasn't the only person that made it happen, and I wasn't the person that introduced rangefinders to the game. I think Sarah Hoka and Paige Pierce were using them, long before I even started working at Bushnell. But it does feel good to be a part of a bigger brand coming into the sport. I like to think that we helped change the culture around data in disc golf a little bit, around measuring in disc golf, and hopefully pave the way for some of the bigger brands to get into disc golf. I know it was pretty cool when we first got in, and there's some bigger fish in that pond now, which is honestly even better to see.
All right, so we'll transition over. You kind of a longer history playing, and then integrating your job, and then getting this big company on board. All of those things. Carino, let's transition to your involvement. Where did disc golf? How and where did disc golf enter your life?
So I quit my job in 2021. Been a software engineer for 14 years at the same company, and so I was like a little burned out. And so disc golf hit me just right, where it was like I needed to get outside, made friends. But like immediately I started adding sensors to the disc. I was like, I need to know more, because there just wasn't that much information out there that was reliable. You'd hear one thing, you'd hear a different thing. Forehand has more spin, forehand has less spin. And so I'm just like, okay. And so I start adding sensors, and then I add more sensors. And then like about a year later, I have like something that's like pretty good demoware, pretty showable to other people. And then basically a year after that, we was our launch event at OTB last year, 2023. And so that whole year was just productizing and getting it ready to sell, basically.
And there's so many questions. How difficult is that portion? I mean, a lot of this equipment, we all know it's getting smaller and smaller. They're all these sensors are in your phone, or at least probably very similar to what are in here. I think if I throw my phone, it won't tell me how many revolutions per minute I've thrown it at. But
I bet there's an app for that.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there is. But how difficult was that? And what did your first? Do you have your first prototype? Like, was it bigger? Was it about the same size?
So if you really rewind the clock, my first electronics project, I made a headset for one of my friends to wear to like a dance party. And so it would like know which way north was, and it knew the orientation that you were facing. And so the lights would always like face the stage. And so even if you like turned your head, the LEDs would still be the same. And so I had a little bit of that like electronics knowledge, and I was just like, I'll just put it on the disc and see what happens. And all the sensors clipped immediately. I was like, okay, well, I need to get new sensors. And so then, but that process is really approachable now. Like I would, like, if you're a hobbyist or like you want to get into hobby electronics, I would say just go for it. It's like, like I designed my first PCB as part of this project. And yeah, you just put all the components where you want, you draw the wires, and then like a week later, it's in your mailbox. You have your PCBs. So yeah, I have a little hot plate in my garage, and I have my little tweezers putting all the little components on and stuff.
Wow.
And it was just a fun side project. And then at some point I was like, I think other people want this. And Michael was saying he was looking for someone like me. I was in the market for a CEO. I was like, I really just want to just write the code and do the back end stuff. And so I want to find someone to like run the business and stuff. So Mr. Bushnell himself over here was a good find.
Well, here, I'm going to start, and we should have done this earlier. Right off the bat, I happen to have one in front of me, and so I want to make sure the world knows, just in case. And I should have had even one of you, Michael, why don't you tell me, when you're, if you're giving the 30 or 60-second elevator pitch, how are you describing what exactly it is that I'm showing on screen, or how would you describe your product to maybe somebody that's like, cool, what are they even talking about with TechDisc? What are they referencing? How would you describe it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a new product for disc golfers in general. So in ball golf, it's called a launch monitor because it measures your launch.
Okay.
And so it's really a measuring tool. You throw the disc, which has a sensor on it, and it measures everything about your throw just from that 20 milliseconds, that couple of feet of flight right there. And then it will spit out your speed, spin, wobble, hyzer angle, nose angle, launch angle, all the angles and forces that go into launching that throw. And then the tool will also simulate a virtual disc for you. So you can see the numbers, what you actually threw, and then you can see a simulated flight path based on whatever disc you want to plug into the simulator. So it's really a launch monitor for disc golf, a way to measure what you're doing to your disc, figure out what you shouldn't be doing to the disc, and then try different things to get better at it.
So if, just to go back for a moment, if you, this is like a fairway by most people's standards, I would say, that I'm holding on to at the moment, relatively, short rim. When you say you're putting the data in there for the disc, do you have to attach this to a different disc, or will it just automatically adjust even though you're throwing and releasing a fairway? And if you wanted to say, hey, I really want to know how what would the 3D model look like if I threw this, but it was actually on a 4-speed, mid-range or something like that. Does that account for it, or does it need to be on an actual, disc that's similar to it?
No, you can simulate an Ultra Star if you want to. If you want to throw a distance driver and simulate a polecat, more power to you. So you can really plug in whatever you want into the simulation. It's kind of a 2-step process where you throw, get the measurements. Those measurements are fed into the simulator as like a second step of that process. And so that simulation can be whatever you want it to be.
So maybe a weird one, but how frustrated or how many inconsistencies do you find from disc manufacturers at this point? Because you guys are talking about such finite measurements and details and variables. And not to pick on any one company, but we all know you can have a distance driver in one plastic that's $20 and the same distance driver in another plastic that's $9 from the same company. How do any of those things?
But they've got the same flight numbers, Terry.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if I want to ask you guys about flight numbers. I'm worried
I
what
thought
you'll
that's
say.
where you were going.
No,
let's say that for later.
But along those lines, what have you guys picked up in terms of whether it's the companies or their advertising or their marketing or whatever? What are some of the things that you could pull back the curtain on in that regard?
I'll pass to John in a second to talk about the actual physics of it. In terms of getting the data, we really don't care. As long as the electronics are very well centered, which is a process that we carefully control. If this particular disc is a little more domey than this other particular disc, it really doesn't make a difference to the data. But we have had a lot of discussions with manufacturers because we're effectively selling a $300 disc, and we'd like the quality of the disc to match that expectation. And so we've been pretty picky, and we've had to set up some quality thresholds and procedures with the manufacturers that we're working with.
But every manufacturer would like to sell a $300 disc.
Well, that was my next question: is do you guys divulge who
makes your discs?
We do, actually. It's on the website now at shop.techdisc.com.
Okay.
The mold doesn't really matter, but some people like Discraft plastic. Some people like Innova plastic, just a preference or a feel. So we started off using only Discraft, and they've been really great to work with. And then we introduced Innova a month or two ago.
Wow.
And so we're just trying to slowly give people more choices so they feel more comfortable with it. It doesn't affect the data one bit, but some people like their plastic.
Do you have different molds? Obviously, there's the fairway. If I want to throw a mid-range or a putter, can I get TechDisc on a putter?
You can. Not many people do, but you certainly could.
Well, I'm just thinking, you never know.
Yeah. No, that's something that
putter's not
I really
the number
think
one bestseller.
It should be. People, amateurs out there, it should be. You should learn to throw your putter better first.
Yeah, because people are like, I want to somehow mimic Owen's wobble So I want to figure
No, I'm
out what
saying
her wobble is at.
Not for putting, but throwing a putter. If you're a good putter thrower, you're going to be a better disc golfer.
And sorry, real quick before I get to you, Carino, I want to say, where's the table turn in terms of manufacturers begging to get on board versus you approaching them? Like, there's probably a fine balance of people like either care and believe in your science and all this great technology, and some of the others might be thinking, we don't, I don't know if we care, if our mold is attached. Like, what is that something you're working on the daily there, Michael, as to, who cares and who doesn't, and what that means to be kind of partnered, if that's the right word?
Yeah, I mean, we're still a pretty young company. Like Karina mentioned, we've only really been launched for a little over a year. And so we partnered with Discraft early on. They've been really good to work with. We're getting up there with Innova. We've got a couple months under our belts. Love to get there with MVP, with some others. It takes time to change culture, and not everybody is, either believes it or thinks it's super important just yet. But these culture changes take time.
I think about, obviously there's science at every single manufacturer, and you think of some of your originals in like your Dave Dunapaces, and then I think about the clearly scientific approach, and they kind of even bank on it and build their brand around it over at MVP. Do you think some convincing or sales, to some of these people is easier or tougher depending on, kind of the culture at that particular manufacturer?
Yeah, I think it definitely could be. There's also a little bit of trying to show them what benefit this actually provides for them, because I don't think that's immediately apparent. Again, this is, a launch monitor is very widely used in golf, but it's so new in disc golf that it's not obvious to a manufacturer how it's going to, boost their business, 20% next year. I will say though that I think one of the things that's going to change in the coming years is really how manufacturers design their discs and using data of how people actually throw to design discs for those people. I think it's been talked about anecdotally, but now there's, we've actually got data to show what does a 300-foot player throw like, what does a 400-foot player throw like, and you can really finely tune in discs to suit a particular subset of player.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think of the concept of like having someone throw a disc. Like, hey, come here. Terry's working at wherever. Come here, throw this disc. Okay, this is the right disc for you, right? After you get all the statistics, after you figure out nose angle, speed, God, that's the only ones I can think of. Hyzer release angle, whatever is in there, RPMs, and being able to look at your swath of data and just say, oh yeah, you're going to want this 5-speed or 7-speed that's, a -2 turn or whatever it is, and we think this is going to be the best for you. I can only imagine some of the fitting, a lot like what we see with golf clubs.
Right. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for stores who are willing to be a little bit more technical in their disc selection advice. We've got a store locator map, techdisc.com/stores, where you can find a store near you that has a tech disc. I'd say it's still early days in people throwing a tech disc and then having the disc golf store employee actually say, "Oh, you're throwing, 5 degrees nose up. Let's get you into a Shrike. Let's choose a disc that's really going to suit your throw style." But that's definitely going to come soon.
Carino, what were some of the must-haves, like the non-negotiables in terms of things you're like, this absolutely has to have for me to measure? And then maybe do you have other things that are yet to be built out that you're concerned about making sure you get integrated into the actual acquiring of data? What are some of the other things?
Yeah, accuracy is always number one. Like, if people don't trust it, like there's been snake oil before, and people are like, you're like, hey, I have some sensors on a disc, and you're like, okay, but does it work? And so like literally just like having something that's like so accuracy is like, once people throw it and they realize that it's like the real deal, I think it's going to sell itself, I think is the idea. So in terms of the data accuracy, like I cranked everything up as high as I could. Even when Michael came on and he was like, no one would buy sensors this expensive if they were making this product the regular way, which is like the corporate way. We wouldn't even consider these options. And so like, yeah, we had like $20 sensors on there, and I had 2 of them. And so it was like, yeah, so
that was a literal
that's
example.
Like Paramount.
Versus what, like
doing-
$6 sensors, $7 sensors? Like you went with the high end $20 sensors.
So those are the 200G accelerometers, and those do the heavy lifting for, you know, like even I can clip the accelerometer that's in your phone, and so it's plus or minus 16 Gs, 16 times the force of gravity. And so the 200G accelerometers let you catch just so much more of the throw. And like I have a Wiggins through it. I have him up around like over 200 Gs. It's like 214 Gs or something like that. At the very like hit of the throw. So capturing all of that was just kind of a process, because at first I only had people throwing in the 50s, and then like I gave one to like my local pro, Brady Oach, shout out. And so then, you know, he's throwing it in the 70s. And then I was like, for the firmware in September, I was like, this needs to be Wiggins proof. Because Michael was going to USDGC distance competition. So I had a bunch of changes in the firmware to make it, you know, 80 plus miles an hour. But yeah, I'm just, I have a super beefy, all the hardware on there is super beefy. And so I'm just sampling as fast as I can, getting as much raw data as I can. And then I send it up to the cloud to figure out the orientation of the disk and then how it leaves your hand. So that's all done off disk. So the disk is more a data capture tool, and then transfers it to the phone and then up to the cloud.
Is there anything right now that you feel like you can't capture with this? Like, is there one of those stats you're like, man, if I can get either better sensors or whatever, that I would love to know ...
I think in terms of it, of you throwing it and it knowing how it came out of your hand and which direction it's going and level to the ground and all that, I think it is complete. The only thing that would be fun to add would be like a GPS, but I like this product is more of a training tool. I actually don't super want you throwing it on the course, because it's like I have 2 water carries here and like a fence that the neighbors, like, you can never get the disc back if it goes over the fence. And so it's like, I don't really want you throwing the $300 disc on the thing. So I don't know. I haven't. It would be a different sport. If we went into a different sport, I think would be
Sure.
the only time I would want to add sensors.
Yeah, and you're right. I wouldn't probably take this thing out on the course either. Just, you know, it feels good in my hand, whatever it is. But in general, just for fear of losing it or breaking it or beating it up. I guess it doesn't even matter if it's really beat up, as long as you're not beating up the sensor. It doesn't matter what the disc is. You can throw it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times.
It will hold any line you put it on, Johnny, if you do throw in the field.
Oh, that's all we need for a disc review.
That's
right.
right.
It feels good in the hand, as Johnny said, and it holds any line you put it on. Good for beginners and the most
all
experienced
skill
players.
levels.
Yeah.
And pros alike. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of data that's putting out that we're not really presenting in a great way yet. We really had to like kind of create the 6 metrics that you're seeing now in the tool. But we have every throw, we get the position and the orientation of the disc from the backswing all the way through the power pocket, through the hit. We've got that position in there. And so we have the speed and acceleration and the angles all throughout that path. And we think that's pretty valuable information for people, you know, learning how does Paul Macbeth get the disc from here to here compared to how do I do it? And so we're hoping to, you know, work on presenting that data in a way that's digestible and useful. I think we did a good job with the first 6 metrics here, but there's a lot that leads up to that could be useful too.
Now, I have to assume that somebody, maybe it's somebody that throws real far and fast, has said, but what about the weight of it? And is that slowing down, what my max, I could just imagine Gannon Burr throwing 78 and saying, but I could get to 80 if this thing weighed less. Is there any truth to that? How much does the actual unit weigh? And then how do you guys account for that, or is that not significant?
Yeah, it weighs about 10 grams. And so we use discs that are 165 grams approximately. So the final product comes back up to a max weight disc.
Okay.
We have had some people ask for a lightweight disc, a 155, a 160 gram final weight version. We'd love to do that at some point. But honestly, just getting a steady supply of good 165 gram discs has been enough of a challenge for the short term.
I mean, for the right price, I could go digging in my storage. I've got a few thousand random Frisbees back there. Just to be clear for everyone too, we have here a fairway in our hands. If I wanted to remove that and transfer that, is that possible? What's that process or not? As you're shaking your head,
please don't.
Transferable things of that nature. Not the case. You need to essentially buy the mold you really want. Is that what you're telling us?
Right. That's a little bit of the magic of how this works. Is in our so we build everything in Kansas City, and in our office we've got a bunch of microscopes and tools to center that really precisely every time and adhere it permanently.
Okay.
We did a number of tests early on because I'd love to be able to pop this off of this mold and put it onto this mold, but we couldn't have a user take it off and put it on without screwing up the centering of it. It's pretty sensitive.
And because also the centering of it's vital, correct?
Yeah, the centering is important. It's really important. And then also just getting it to adhere to the disc through a throw, through a net, through missing the net and hitting a brick wall. That adhesion is pretty important too.
Is it feasible or possible? Because I'm looking at something like this, and obviously the technology is going to get smaller. It's going to get thinner. It's going to get whatever it is. I just always imagined in my head something you can put inside the rim of a disc. Because then you have manufacturers that you could do something like that. Is that do you think that's reasonable physics wise, or do you feel like it needs to be the center of the disc in order for it to register all the RPMs and all that stuff? Or do you think it could be on the outside, the edge of a disc at some point?
From just an electronics perspective, the edge would be doable. I think energy storage is always the toughest thing with the super small form factor electronics. Mm-hmm. I don't know that these sensors would like being that far from the center, right, Carino?
Yeah, you could have balanced batteries. I think the molding process would be the hardest. Yeah, the other issue is that it's spinning. So I have a 200G accelerometer that's 0.7 inches away from the center. And so that experiences a lot of centripetal force. Now you're talking having something 7 times that, 6 times that. So you probably need 400G accelerometers. Yeah, there's a lot that would go into that. I think when we were let's launch this company, we were the data collection is the first step of this huge multi-year journey of getting the data and learning more about how discs fly and taking that data, putting it back into the product. And so we just wanted the simplest form factor. It's attached permanently and we know the data's clean. And so start there and then start taking steps down the road.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. And my brain, coming from the broadcasting background, I'm sure you guys have thought about it, that we started here. All I keep thinking is how cool would it be to be able to put one of these on Calvin Heimberg's drive at USCGC on hole 5 to see, to truly get, then that data feeds back to Terry. So he looks smart in the booth and he can say, oh yeah, Calvin Heimberg threw that 78 miles an hour, 1500 RPM. That's actually way too many. I think 800 RPMs. And, it was about a 5-degree angle because right now with the technology we have, golf does that with a lot of cameras and simulators. we're not going to have that for years if we're lucky. But something like this, possibly, you have someone when it lands, walk up, scan it, and then Terry looks smart. But as of right now, with PDGA specs, you can't really do that.
I mean, I think we all probably want to get to the same place. Yeah. And if you've seen, we've done some tournament central segments with Brian Earhart and Nate Perkins, right, where we'll simulate a hole. They'll have a pro throw the TechDisc, and you can see the numbers they're really throwing on that hole. Now, it's not real time in the broadcast; it's before the fact. But it's trying to get at the same thing of like let's understand what pros are really throwing on real holes in real situations to get an insight into what's going on there. So, we'd definitely love to get closer to that reality.
Have you talked to the PDGA at all about legalities? About, does this thing have to be so thin in order for them to approve it? Could this be on a PDGA approved disc and a player use it in the field? Even like I said, I jokingly say USCGC hole 5, but there's a lot of water there. But is that something like that possible? Could we see something like that in the future with the PDGA?
Yeah, I think they approved, or they have approved electronics in discs before. Right? I think it's possible, as long as you mold them in or otherwise manufacture them into the disc beforehand. So the PDGA were very nice and reached out and asked if we wanted to try and go down the path of making this TechDisc PDGA approved, which I don't think it could be, and it's not really a fit for what TechDisc is anyway. So we said like this is not really a golf disc; it's a measuring tool. But I think the PDGA has set it up well to make that possible in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was a question I was thinking of earlier. Is it felt like really big news a few years ago when the PDGA said, "Hey, that is allowable, so to speak, some RFID or whatever the capabilities were." And again, us two idiots sitting here in a booth thinking, I don't know how that would ever work. That's why I guess I question that crossover as to what you guys could do, or does that expand your thought process in the future of some kind of integration? But that's not really necessarily what you're concerned about right now, it sounds like.
Not right now. And I'll tell you, it took us how many years just to get the distance onto the broadcast for Bushnell?
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. So John, you and I talked real quick briefly before the show, and I'm being the guy that I am. I was kind of jaw dropped. What type of development tools does it take to make TechDisc? Like, what are you working with in order to build the software and get all the statistics, all that stuff? Like, run us through a little bit about that.
Okay. So we use Google Cloud for most of our processing and hosting of the website. The backend is mostly written in Java. I was a professional Java developer, or that was my main language for 14 years. So that's like my home language. The website is in TypeScript React. The apps are written in their native language. So you have the Android is Kotlin and the iOS is Swift. And then the simulator is written in Python, and the firmware that actually runs on the device is C++. So I'm a Vim user. Shout out to all my Vim homies out there. But yeah, I mean, I've been writing software for like 25 years, professionally for like 20 of that. And yeah, just writing code all day, every day.
Terry, Vim is kind of like Pine.
Like Vimeo. Yeah,
no. Like Pine, what we started with email.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of DOS prompts. So the follow up to that then question is for you, Michael. How much of that do you understand and or translate or speak, so to speak? I know you're not speaking in computer code, but how much of that? What does that mean to you?
Just enough. So actually, I do the circuit board design. I kind of took that over from Carino once we joined up. But no, actually, I've got a commit in the repo from way back when, right, Carino?
when he made them first 6 boxes for the metrics.
That was my one contribution in code.
Nice, very nice. Made some
patent that, get some royalties or something. Nice. Right now, I guess if we zoom out, so to speak, just the two of you. Expansion, more people. Yep. What's the next step? How many more people? Needs? How do you see you guys growing or expanding, or is it in the future just going to be the two of you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it started out just the two of us, coming up on almost 2 years now. And so when we launched, it was the two of us. We built the first units that we sold back here at my bench in my basement. For a while, it was my wife and I building units and shipping them out. But we pretty quickly needed to bring on some help. So we've had a couple guys locally in Kansas City come in and help part-time. We've got 3 or 4 full-time, I think 3 full-time people, except for, not including ourselves, web developer, app developer, operations person. And we're kind of trying to scale the operations of the business conservatively so we don't outpace demand. And running a hardware business takes a lot of cash and careful planning. And so we're trying to match the growth without limiting ourselves too much. So we've got a good small team here in Kansas City and distributed across the country a little bit. We'll probably keep that size for a little while. We'll see how it develops.
Well, if you had to guess as to what your next expansion would be, in what area do you think that would be? Production, advertising, sales, whatever. What do you assume would be your next, need?
I think we've got a lot of software features we'd love to get off the ground and get into users' hands. There's even a lot that I think is out there now in the 3D simulator scenes. We've built, I think, coming up on 9 disc golf holes that TechDisc users can actually play through now. So wrapping that all into a package that people can use and then pay for, so we can continue to grow and build more holes. That's probably the biggest thing, is just rolling some of the features that have been on our roadmap for a year and getting those out into users' hands. We've got 1 or 2 really big ones coming out, hopefully into beta this week, and hopefully production maybe a month or 2 later. That I think people are really gonna like.
You talk about building disc golf holes, and clearly, I think everybody has had the same thought when they look at one of these, that they want the golf simulator in their garage, like you see with the golfers, that these guys that build these $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 simulators with the screen, and whether that's Unreal Engine to build the whole, like, how realistic is that with this? And how in your opinion, how far away are we from that? Like a couple of years where I could put a screen in my garage and throw this thing at a screen and it'll give me it'll laugh at me as I hit trees, or like what's gonna, No,
I mean, I'm about 10 miles from our office, and that's where our golf simulator is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got it running basically right now with a projector, the simulated holes you can throw, advanced to your lie, even putt into the basket, and that all works. There are definitely some gameplay elements that need to be added, and so you can count score and play against your friends locally. But in terms of playing through a hole, you can play the DDO island hole right now. You can play the preserve, and on Thursday you'll be able to play 2 holes from the Des Moines course.
Cool.
Which should be pretty fun.
And
if you've got the projector and the simulator, and TechDisc, you've got it right now.
Oh, really? So if I put up a projector and a screen and grab a TechDisc, there's the software application, or hook it up to my laptop or whatever, and run it from there, and it will. Oh wow! I didn't realize we were that far along.
Get caught up. Next week, I'm running a super tour. And I'm going to start taking registrations. You can pre-reg now, and you come and you play my tournament. And clearly that's got to be next. That's all I've been thinking about for the last 3 minutes is,
we've seen Disc Golf Valley.
Exactly. Disc Golf Valley tournaments. There's going to be simulated tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to TD one of those.
It has to happen. Yeah.
Like,
Probably
I love it.
fantasy on virtual tournaments. Yeah.
Huh.
I didn't realize. Yeah,
It'll be like StarCraft, where there's like people play like online or in person, and it's like you have to categorize it into two separate categories.
I want to be a virtual tournament winner.
I want to set one of these things up. I truly do. I think it's. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of contractors who are working on the Unity holes around the country, and they're building all these for TechDisc use. We are integrated into another game that's available on Steam right now.
Yep.
I think right now it's just the flight physics, but maybe the whole TechDisc throw will be integrated soon. We're happy to integrate with other people who have disc golf games. I think this would, we don't need to be the only source for this. I think this could be a lot of fun for a lot of people to play a lot of different versions of disc golf virtually.
And
if you have a disc golf game, you should email us.
Yeah. No, you're
to integrate, because it's like if you have a tech disc, you might as well like play that game.
And I just think of people, someone who might be Unreal. Is that what you guys use for the 3D? Is Unreal or
it's Unity?
Unity. Okay, Unity. So if you're a Unity developer, I mean, I could imagine like, hey, I want to build my local course, and go out and that's because Unity these days it's not that tough. It's pretty easy these days to just kind of build a 3D environment.
Yeah, and I hope Zach and Matt are okay with me sharing this, but we're working on tools so that you can build your local course, because it's not cost effective for us to be the only ones building courses. So our guys have built some tools to make that much easier and faster. They're going to try those tools out on us first, see if we can do it, me and Carino. And then hopefully we can release those to the broader public.
I'm sure you have never thought of this, but
because Johnny
here you go. Like,
is our big thing.
I just think of like a maker things. You should be selling. Obviously, you should be selling courses. Hey, guess what? You want to buy USDGC? It's $5 or whatever that is, and hey, everybody buys USDGC course, buys Winthrop. They buy, I want to throw out the Memorial. I want to, and then you obviously you follow the tour around. You hopefully reproduce those events. That's
sign up on my website to play and
there you
challenge
go,
them.
Terry runs the tournaments. I just think of all the different ways we can use this new information that we have to build a community. We saw it during the pandemic with Disc Golf Alley. It took off, and then just all the different ways these online.
Yeah, why go outside? You could just play with your friends from your garage.
We need another pandemic.
Wow, that's a hot take.
Hot take from Carino. No.
I'm just like,
I'm sure pickleball would like that too.
Like laid the playbook out, and so like we just have to follow the golf model. Like,
sure,
what does golf do? It's kind of like the default in terms of the business decisions. It's like, what do people like? What do people want?
And I'll admit, because I have not set it all up or done any of that yet with the one that I have.
Yeah,
but
it's not leaving. It's staying
my
here
question is this an item in which is easily... Can you set up different profiles in players, for instance? So if Johnny V and I were cheap, which we are, if I had one and I came over, I'm like, hey, look at this, but then he wants to log stuff and keep any kind of track on his. Is it going to be specific to the individual? Are there profiles, logins, anything? How does that kind of all work if people want to be cheap and share them?
Yeah, it's really super easy. As long as you guys have your own phone, you can download the TechDisc app. Okay, not that cheap. That's good. So it's super
we only
easy
have
to
200
connect.
minutes.
We only have 200. We're one of those couples that has to share social media too. It's weird.
It's John and Terry.
So all the data is stored on your TechDisc account. So if Terry logs into his phone with his account and those throws are on your account. And then Johnny, if you log in on your phone on your account, all those throws are on your account. It takes about 2 seconds to disconnect from one phone, connect to another phone.
Okay.
Bluetooth? Is that the connection? Bluetooth. Okay.
Yeah. So Bluetooth from disk to the phone, and then it sends that data up to the cloud. So you need internet connection as well.
Okay.
And then what is the? Maybe I could peel it apart, but you could just tell me.
Don't peel anything off.
Battery, charging, rechargeable battery.
You rechargeable, but yeah, so it lasts about 3 hours. USB-C rechargeable.
Okay.
It's super small. It charges pretty fast.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So 3 hours. That feels like not
It's
being
longer
Like
than you
around,
should, throw.
Terry.
real electronic. That feels like a relatively short battery life. Is that a concern, or has it been?
No, so typically people throw in a net, and if you're
Yep.
throwing into a net for 3 hours,
Your arm's
you're
going to fall
probably in
off.
pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
I've
also sleep pretty aggressively, so it can last longer.
Okay.
Yeah, I say I've
If
got.
you're throwing it as like a business or a store, you can have two, so you recharge one. All the other.
There you go.
That's
They could
that's
just
right.
buy more.
Or
I mean,
have-
they could have 10.
Yeah, because
One for every customer that comes in.
2 nets you could have.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Well, what I was thinking,
You
because
run
I've got one of the just an ultimate disc that has an LED light on the bottom, and I don't think the battery's 3 hours. I'll tell you that. It's not that good. It's
No.
yeah. This
Yeah,
sounds
we crank
that's
all
doing
the
a lot more
sensors up
work.
to max, so we're pulling as much current as those sensors will let us. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, the 3 hour, like in terms of the optimization of like, could we push it to 6 hours? Maybe, but you would have to sacrifice some data quality, or
it's not worth it.
So yeah, we're all optimizing on correctness.
And so, what have you found from the data? Anything that surprised you? Like, you collect all this data, you must see it. Have you seen anything that makes you go, I never would have thought of that? Or is it all that way?
I mean, there's been a lot of learning over like, this was all just a curiosity project to begin with. So like, we've learned so much. Like, we know forehand now has like 40% less spin than backhand for pretty much all players. There's a lot of stuff in there like that. For me personally, my forehand was coming out 15 degrees nose down. I changed my grip, and now like I have a reasonable forehand. And it was just like a total garbage. It was like hurts every throw, and now it's like useful tool on the course. So it's helped me a little bit, but not. I don't throw. Starting the company has hampered my throwing skills, and also I had my second child 2 years ago, which has also put a dent in my.
I don't feel bad. I threw a forehand this past or a weekend and a half ago that went maybe 26 feet right into the ground.
Oh, you're improving.
And and it was. I looked at my group and I said, "Hey, that ain't bad," and they all kind of chuckled because they know me. So yeah.
How many players, whether it's the feels or they're maybe pretty smart, how many of them have brought either suggestions or enhancements, or have argued with some of the results, like, oh, there's no way I wobble X amount or whatever? Have you gotten any pushback, warranted or otherwise, from any players?
You could say we've gotten some pushback.
Okay.
We've gotten some really good feature requests, really good, thoughtful requests coming from users, which we always appreciate. I think our customer base right now is pretty amazing on the whole.
Just wait.
We do get the occasional complaint. I think pretty frequently we hear, "Hey, is this disc not calibrated correctly? I can't. It says I'm always throwing nose up, and I know that's not true."
No.
We'll go in and check. No, it's calibrated correctly. You're throwing nose up. One of the more honest mistakes is when people throw into a shorter net. Like I think a 7-foot net is a pretty common size for a lot of nets. That's effectively like throwing under a 7-foot ceiling, which is super low in disc golf, right?
Yeah.
You'd never do that in real life. So people will throw into a 7-foot net, and then the simulated distance shows 100 feet. And they say, "I throw my Luna 450. I can't believe this thing is saying I throw this 100 feet." Well, let's talk about launch angle. Let's talk about getting a bigger net, and you can always take your throw into the simulator and see exactly what the flight path is doing in 3D. You can even adjust the metrics. You say, "Hey, what if I took my launch angle from -2 degrees to +10?" It goes higher and it goes farther. So those are the two, I think, big issues we hear about.
What's the ideal throw? Like,
That's
like
the
if
third big issue we hear
For
about.
what shot?
well, everyone wants distance. Come on, big D. Everybody loves distance.
Oh, okay, okay.
If you're looking distance, you said you were making it Wiggins proof. Wiggins is our furthest thrower in our game. Like, what is he doing that makes, like, you look at, like, what is his perfect launch angle? What is his perfect speed? You know, clearly everything can be ramped up, but we're going to say he's the ceiling right now.
I think, okay, so I would say -4 nose angle. Like 10 degrees uphill. And enough hyzer where it's gonna, so let's say like 15-degree hyzer, 20-degree hyzer, where you can throw something flippy for an 80, like flippy for an 80-mile-an-hour thrower that's gonna come all the way, use up the entire fairway, and then hyzer back out. The other one, if you're going for big distance, you can do the Sky Annie as well. But I like the big hyzer that turns all the way over and rides out the fairway.
Flip flat,
Throw
flies
that at
hard.
85 miles an hour with, let's say, 1500 plus spin. Should be good.
That's all you need.
Well, and
Do you guys have recommendations on how someone can improve things? So let's say I get out and throw this, and it says I'm 600 RPMs. How do I get to 800?
yeah, throw
Like-
1200. That would be my.
Yeah, exactly. Like
You are inefficient.
well, yeah.
Beep, beep,
Like,
beep.
are there on the website? Is there ideas like, hey, you should maybe work on this, grip it like this, grip it here, maybe work on this exercise? I don't know.
Yeah, not yet. Right now, we're really just a measuring tool, and it's super effective when you use it with a coach to help you figure that out.
Okay.
Disc golf coaching is something that we generally like to stay out of ourselves. It doesn't seem like an area where there are always clear right answers, and we really like our clear right answers.
Yeah, I mean, there's
You guys
just
are
so
the
much,
data guys, yeah.
there's just so much subjectivity, right? And that's what you're saying in terms of how someone says, "Well, here's how you get the power pocket," and somebody says, "Well, the power pocket doesn't even exist." Versus, this
It's all
angle,
about bracing. And,
yeah, or whatever, in
Has
your
to be
X
fan
step.
grip, has to be power grip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
I'm a fan
body
of
types are
it.
different, but we'd love to connect people to coaching sources. We can say, hey, your spin is lower than average. Maybe you should look at these couple different sources who have talked about spin.
okay.
But I don't think that we'll be putting out coaching Bibles anytime soon.
Oh, you must have seen the recent video with Simon and the robot.
Disc launchers.
The disc.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been in contact? And like, have you thought like, hey, let's get TechDisc in on this robot launcher and watch him spin the hell out of it and throw it?
Yeah,
Would-
I think we went
would he
from
peek it
0
out?
disc
What-
robots.
Yeah.
We went from 0 disc robots in January to 3 disc robots now in June. Or July. It's a crazy development.
In the last 2 months, 3 came out. So 2 of them spin it like crazy, and it makes it much harder to collect the data from it because it's moving so violently for so long that we end up losing track of like where the disc is.
Sure.
But one of the disc throwing robots is from the Stuff Made Here guy, which if you're listening to this, please email me. I would love to talk to, but his uses a series of linear motors with wheels that spin. And so the disc kind of gets fed into it, and then it like spins it up to speed through like 6 levels of wheels that kind of like accelerate it.
Okay.
And that one is much more similar to a human throw.
Mm.
And I think TechDisc would work very well. But for the ones that just spin up the disc like a ton before they throw it, it's going to be a struggle to try to get those to work.
Because
Yeah,
disc
just-
golfers
we're gonna
can't
try.
duplicate that, is what you're saying?
And it probably doesn't store the information for that long, right? Or it does. Like if that sat and spun it for 6-7 seconds, will TechDisc store that data, or does it? Or
No,
do you
that
have-
would be like 4 separate throws. It would be like,
Yeah.
I'm spinning, I'm flying. And then and then it would send the throw to your phone, and then it would do it again. And it would be like, I'm spinning, I'm flying. And then it would send the data to your phone again.
Okay.
It's probably possible long term, but we're actually emailing back and forth with RN today from the robot from Simon's channel.
Okay.
So we'd love to make something happen there because the consistency he was able to get out of that robot was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I just think of the collaboration between the consistency and granted, I mean, I guess you don't need to be as consistent if you have all of the data. You know, you can kind of assume based on 100 or 500 throws with a particular player, knowing the nose angle, seeing how far it actually goes, maybe what they average on general. But the consistency makes that a little bit easier. You could probably cut those numbers down quite a bit.
Yeah.
With, as you were just saying, this space getting a lot more popular, maybe not yet crowded, do you see that happening as technology enhances and as more people from outside of disc golf that maybe just find it and then have these engineering backgrounds and interests? Do you feel like this space is going to become more and more of a popular place to operate in?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I hope so. I think if it doesn't, we're probably doing something wrong. If you look at the golf launch monitor space, they've got a bunch of different ways of measuring the golf ball. I'd hope in the future we have a bunch of different ways of measuring the disc golf disc as well. Obviously, I hope all of them come from TechDisc, but it's probably not realistic.
Well, and that was kind of my point is, do you feel like you guys are early to market and obviously that should hopefully set you up for a few advantages, but also others are going to clearly learn off of some of the models and some of the things that you guys are doing. And, we'll get a little bit of a jump start because they're able to, we'll say, copy or duplicate a few of the overall principles that you guys are using. But
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I'd say that hopefully we're not too early, maybe a touch, but I think there's a couple pieces that we're stringing together that people probably don't even see yet that are pretty non-trivial. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see someone come at it in a different way, in a camera or radar.
I think camera way,
something totally different. I think it'll be a little bit before someone can really replicate what we're doing.
Yeah, because I imagine having, if you want to do the camera way, and I've talked about this on the broadcast, you would need a up above camera probably to be able to measure the rotation of this disc coming out of the hand, and the speed of the arm and the angle almost of how they pull it across their body versus rounding, Terry, because that's what we do. And all those things in order to measure that. And even then, that's just a moment measurement like that. So, which is obviously working, but it would be, that would be definitely interesting. Is there have you guys thought about, I'm sure you have, because hardware, as you said, hardware is difficult. TechDisc 2.0 or 3.0 or 4.0 for hardware wise. What does that look like? Have you started it? Is it like kind of top secret right now? Like what is the next iteration for TechDisc?
We've actually gotten that question before from customers saying, hey, I don't want to buy this one if the new one's going to come out next week.
I don't care.
No, this is, I think Carino mentioned, like, there's not really a big feature that we're trying to add in the next hardware version that this one doesn't have. We actually have a kind of a secret sensor already in this one that we're not turning on yet that we hope to turn on in the future. So there's your SmashBox exclusive.
Nice. Secret sensor.
You guys
all right, break it open. Get me a hammer.
Because I'm sure you'll be able to. You'll be able to locate it, identify it, and then know what it does.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I
don't
trust
know
you
unless it's open.
I'm
just saying, Terry.
I certainly trust you on that. One. I don't. It's not a secret that there is, in my opinion, that I know of. There's one other company that seems to be doing something similar, and I guess maybe a few questions that follow that are: what's your conversation been like with them, and then where do you feel you're different in terms of what you guys are doing? And I'm talking about Game Proofer, unless you guys know of someone else. I don't. I've had great conversations with them as well, but where are you guys similar? Where are you different? And what is that? I don't want to call it competitive conversation, but what are have there been conversations between you?
Yeah. So we're similar in that we're both putting a circuit board on the center of a disc, and our housings are both circular.
Okay.
But I think from an actual product perspective, they end up being quite different.
Okay.
Ours was really designed on that launch monitor framework where you throw into a net, we measure for 20 milliseconds, and that's it. I think theirs is built around more GPS. It was really built to be thrown in field or on the course, help find your disc, but also provide you some statistics. So we've
Yeah, you get a cool map
actually
of all your GPS of like
Yeah,
where you've been on the course.
I used something like that at DDO probably 7 years, 6-7 years ago last time when I was out there at the warehouse where one of the guys from overseas had brought one over and he let me throw it and crushed it, Terry, by the way.
No,
he was impressed.
No, he wasn't.
He told me he was impressed.
No.
I think he was surprised that I didn't suck, is what he says. But it was different. Yeah, because I think it gave me like a flight path or something along those lines, and it just more or less told me how far I threw. Because it was very early. It was very early. It was bigger than this, let me tell you that. It was a good size, and because this was, again, probably 6, 7, 8 years ago already, but I don't even honestly recall who that was, if that even went anywhere.
Yeah, no. So it's really more of a GPS based product, I think, and so it's just very different use cases. One of the features that I think they were working on was showing the GPS flight path all along from the throw to the endpoint. I think that would be really cool to see. So hopefully that comes out soon. But I met them at USDGC last year. When we went down for the distance contest, got to try it out. They're great guys, super friendly. They didn't like it when I tried to cheat their system and get a faster speed. So I could go up the leaderboard because I wasn't going to be able to break 60 on my own. That's for sure.
You threw it from further back.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just go and break into their website and then adjust all their data. So
this thing measures forehand, backhand, right? Any other throws? Tomahawk, thumber, grenade? It'll measure them. Is it
thumber grenade? Even you can throw a grenade this way. It'll say
chicken
thumber
wing?
Grenade.
You have chicken wing yet? Come on.
Chicken wing would register as a backhand.
I always thought chicken wing was kind of this way.
This thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like a thumb forehand almost, but okay, well, whatever.
I'm thinking of that like Big Show.
No, so when you throw it, we measure the the spin and then the angle, and so we've got labels for your backhand, your hyzer. Get in the video here. Your hyzer, your flat shot, your anhyzer, your roller, Crino, and what comes next. Like as you go around the clock,
it would switch to thumber. So if you keep going back more and more on your backhand, then eventually it becomes the same throw as a thumber because it has this spin on it. And so once it passes 90, it'll say thumber. And then similarly, over the head is tomahawk. But if you throw it like this would say forehand roller. So basically forehand roller, roller, tomahawk. Yeah. But yeah, it'll register. Yeah, it knows exactly how it left your hand, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I could see like an alert popping up and say like, "Stop doing that. You shouldn't stop. Don't even try that anymore."
just the Mac frowny face.
Yeah, like
just gives me the beach ball.
Again, going back to some of the pros that have thrown them, you see that they get very intrigued. Obviously, some of them I think get a little bit competitive once in a while, among each other.
Yeah, we saw Gannon throwing into a net just the other day.
Yeah, so with that, when you're, are you surprised when you see a result of a throw could be 500 feet, but yet a Gannon and a Kevin Jones and a Luke Humphreys get there so differently, or not? Like, what are some of the things that you see are the obvious overlaps there?
Yeah, actually, I think I want to pull out a story from the USDGC last year.
Okay.
Where, most people you could see as they threw faster, they threw farther. It's a pretty obvious. There's a pretty clean slope to that curve. But Garrett Gerthy stood out from that crowd, where he was able to hit distant. I think he was throwing. It was 75. I don't know if you remember, Carino.
Yeah, it wasn't like record breaking, but with like 1650 spin or 1700 spin or something crazy like that.
And he was hitting distances that guys throwing 80 were hitting, and so he was tuning in all his angles, whether he knew it or not. His discs were tuned perfectly, and he was getting the absolute maximum out of the velocity he was putting into that disc. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, well, we've known Double G forever, and just you can tell when you look at his format how compact he is and how he winds up versus some of these guys that do like their full pullbacks, like Anthony Barella and the spin. Like Double G has things dialed in, man.
Yeah, and maybe even the fact that he doesn't do a 360 and the way he has his arm different than most players. Like there's some things that are really unorthodox if you want to give you like a textbook throwing style. Nobody would say, hey, go mimic exactly what Double G does, but yet he apparently has it tuned just right where he still gets it to work is in an optimum way. I mean, he's throwing katanas out there is usually what his big distance discs are like 163 or 165-ish gram katanas, which I think if you polled any other distance thrower, not zero will say katanas, right? Like, but clearly he's doing a bunch of things right?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to get the most out of a katana, you've got to be really, really dialed.
Yeah. So
with that, you need more spin if you're going to throw flippier stuff. Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so. With that, what is and I apologize that I'm naive to this answer. Who are our top spin and speed guys typically? Who are those players, and roughly what are they throwing at top speeds and spins? Is that all right in front of me at TechDisc.com if I go out there?
Well, I'm going to pull that up.
Gannon was pushing 1700. He was chasing 1700 at one of the events. I think TV. I just had Zach Nash come through, throw high 1700s. He said his best is 1810, which is the highest I've ever seen of anyone ever. Wow. So that's like your ceiling is like 1800 RPM.
Okay. Wow.
For speed, I think AB's throwing that 84, 85 range.
Okay.
Which I think is about as high as it gets.
Dave Wiggins Jr. also hit that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is it?
Wiggins Jr.
Wiggins Jr.
Wiggins,
okay.
Yeah.
So 84, 85 is roughly like the right now kind of the benchmark for our top throwers, and then RPMs. Zach Nash around 1800 in terms of RPMs. Wow.
But most of our top throwers are probably what, 1500 RPM, 14, 15?
It's pretty broad range. Kelvin's like 1350 up to, but Gannon throws less spin when he throws faster. When he throws full power, when he's up in the high 70s, he's not. It's like 1400 at spin, not that 1650 spin. So that is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different. Yeah, as we know, there's so many different ways to achieve the same goal. You know, I mean, as we all know, most players, you never need to throw much more than 400 to 450. Like, if you can get there, you're going to be fine everywhere. There's almost no place in the world that no course you're going to need to throw any further than that in life.
As I'm looking at, you can see tags where there's people, and this is all listed on the website. I see Carter Aarons and Gavin Rathbun and Gavin Babcock, for instance, and all these different players. Do you guys have any alerts set up so that if all of a sudden, like some
internal
1900s, RPM all of a sudden appears, you're gonna investigate and be like, wait a minute, this 700 rated player just told us, somehow got this thing going 1700. Like, I know who's
right now.
The next robot.
Everything over 1900 is a bug.
Okay. Okay.
And so, there's like one a month that comes in where I'm like, oh, and I do look at it because I do want to know why it's broken.
Makes sense. That's a good developer.
Well, yeah, I guess that's where I think of, at UDisc when all of a sudden, somebody aces 6 holes in a round. You're like, yeah. No, maybe we're going to flag that one and have somebody actually manually check that. I just think of earlier, Michael. I asked you when I saw you at probably I think at the Masters Worlds.
Yep.
We talked about course pros / training people, blah, blah, blah. And we know that Pete Ulibarri he is all things physics, all things math, science, thermals, everything else. I mean, he is at another level in terms of dissecting the physics of flight. Do you have someone like him and or others that are kind of a group of trusted users or people that give you that feedback, or people that you may lean into and say, hey, this, does this seem right? Or is there anyone else you kind of consult in that way?
Yeah, so Pete's definitely, I think, one of the power users of flight physics that's out there. I remember, I think I first met him in 2021 in Utah at that Worlds, and we just talked about thermals and flight physics for hours. And I was like, I found my new favorite Yuleberry.
Yeah.
The better one. Let's all be honest. Come on.
Yeah.
Pete is amazing. And he hung out at the TechDisc booth at Masters Worlds for the whole night with us, just loving every minute of it, helping people with their form, helping people understand the metrics. So Karina really built the simulator that you see on TechDisc.com today. And so he's just as deep, if not deeper, in the research papers and physics of it. There's a few other people out there, but in terms of people deep at that level, I think Pete's one and Karina's probably the other one.
Okay.
He's got great intuition for all the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and such a long history of playing as well. And that's not, to take anything away from, you finding the game a couple of years ago and being intrigued and interested, but Pete also has seen so much golf, played so much golf himself, obviously has a very talented brother and all of those things. And then, has such a training background for him to help kind of put pieces together and or provide some feedback. I just can imagine how valuable that is.
Yeah, he definitely got one of the early tech discs, no doubt about that. But
Very nice.
He's great about finding some like remote, YouTuber from Spain that I've never heard of, who just put out the best explanation of gyroscopic precession. And I don't know how he does it.
It's usually in my search history too. So I could send.
Yeah, the Spanish one. This is good. If you like physics stuff, this is really good.
It's so good.
Yeah. I don't. I'll trust you guys.
I think it's definitely one of the bigger. But I think it's pronounced Thona or something in Spanish. But check it out. Like it's like 10 8-minute videos that are just like, here's how physics works.
Really good. And even Pete's videos on rollers, I think, are exceptional as well. That's okay. There's a lot of stuff that isn't really understood, but Pete's trying to bring it to a wider audience.
We're masters now, so we need to learn rollers.
I'm good with those. I think about Pete also, like we were just saying, really integrating it into his overall training and coaching sessions. Because now there's the feel, there's the look, there's the thought of showing and telling somebody, but now like he can literally say, hey, here's what you're doing. Here's some of these things. And it's spitting out on an app or on a screen for these people. So it's just kind of re-emphasizing or backing up exactly what he's trying to maybe convey to someone.
Yeah. I think even beyond that, and Pete, sorry if I'm misremembering what you told me, but I think he had an injury not so long ago, was trying to work his way back from an injury. And since he had TechDisc data from before, he knew what he could, where he was at in his recovery process. And so he could, work on his training program so that he was back at full strength when Worlds came around. So it's great for coaching, but also just great for understanding, your body physically. Where are you at today?
And this kind of goes back to maybe something I danced around earlier, was in this realm. If you guys were, and I'm not saying you're there, but if you guys were tasked or had unlimited resources or were tasked with this, would you develop your own disc, and would you develop it differently, knowing what you know about throws and everything else that's required to get, we'll say, big distance? Has a light bulb gone off and said, "Oh, we should be molding discs or putting together schematics for discs"?
No.
Wow, you guys, everything you've learned, how smart you are, and no interest in developing a disc.
No,
Wow.
there's lots of great people.
Lazy
gone after
sons of.
We
even,
saw this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't blame
No,
you.
even
That's
that,
a lot of investment.
It just surprises me. I'm not saying you should be. It just surprises me that you haven't gotten to a point of like, I mean, you're seeing how people, are reacting to different discs and what is capable. I'm just surprised that you haven't thought, man, we could build a better disc now. We know what's needed. But
I don't know if
think
I
we'd
personally
be
could build a better disc right now with my current skill set.
okay.
it would be a great tool for a product manager at a disc company.
Okay.
If they're thinking, hey, I want to, do better with this segment of consumers, with segment of disc golfers,
Okay.
fine tune their assortment of discs to, sell to whoever they're trying to sell to.
So,
but in terms of reinventing the wheel, no thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no. They want a disc manufacturer to reach out, license some data, help them, and get some money in some pockets. Who in the company, and I know it's pretty small, has improved the most thanks to TechDisc?
Good question. Is it Eric or Jake?
Jake, yeah.
So our app developer has gotten, what has he gained, 6 or 7 miles an hour? One of our guys that builds the desks locally here, Jake, has gained, I don't know, at least 7 or 8 miles an hour. Wow. Just because I remember when he first started with us, I thought, okay, I can take him, with my 52 miles an hour. No, he's throwing like 60 miles an hour now.
Jake?
Jake.
Who put the video up of the warehouse smash?
Check the logs.
That's
right.
I feel through 67.
I think it was Isaac. It was Isaac. Okay. Yeah. There's a local pro who works with us as well, but that's not fair.
Well, I mean,
he's like 10/10 rated.
Who else outside of and maybe they do or don't, haven't been real public with it, but has there been other people outside of Pete that are really interested in your data or, have other ways to twist your data into things that, is more advantageous to them? Has there, you guys said you're pretty open to people. Have people reached out in a significant sense or in a significant capacity to do so?
Yeah, some people, I wouldn't say significant yet. I think Trash Panda reached out early on trying to see if we could work on flight numbers in a better way.
Okay.
As they're trying to, as Jesse and his team are trying to figure out the ways to assign flight numbers to their discs. I think they're doing it in kind of a crowdsourced way, which is super interesting. And we try to go about it with data as well. That's a conversation I'd like to pick up in the future too. I think there's something there.
Is there any greater answer men than you guys when it comes to the idea of flight numbers right now?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not. No.
Because right now,
yeah,
it's just all like random hogwash by whatever company designer.
Have you seen my new 18-speed disc here? It's right here.
Obviously, there's a lot of really smart people that have been developing discs for 30 and 40 years, and they've got a pretty good feel, even though they may have made up the chart themselves, but they got a good feel for where they want to put a disc, and especially how it's probably relative to the previous disc they made. But right now, analytically, you guys should be assigning flight numbers if we want to be real, right?
So can we sell you on the future of flight numbers right now?
Okay. Yes.
So probably no one will appreciate the gymnastics Carino had to go through to take flight numbers and shove them into a physics simulator in a way that made sense. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of arbitrariness right now, which is understandable, but definitely think in the future, flight numbers could have some clearly understandable relation to physics constants and measurable values from disks, so that some of this arbitrariness goes away and people can really know how the disk is going to fly.
Well, I mean,
so speed is roughly drag.
Yeah, that's the robot dream, right?
Yeah. And so what I want the disks for speed just have it be in grams of drag. You do this for cycling components for wheels and stuff. They're like, this has this much drag at 30 miles an hour. They pick a speed, and then you measure it in a wind tunnel, and that's your disc speed. Is the grams of drag at 60 miles an hour. Glide could be the same way. Lift force at 60 miles an hour. And then you just need turn, which is actually, it'll just be a graph, and it'll have the graph on the disc of the turn across different ranges of angle of attack. That one might not sell as well.
Yeah, not as clean. Not quite as clean on that one, but
that's where most of the variance in the disc shape comes from, is like is the graph of turn relative to its angle of attack. So is it nose up or nose down relative to the direction it's going? And if it's nose down, it's going to roll, and if it's nose up, it's going to fade. But so that graph is basically the thing I need in order to simulate a disc well. And so the nice thing is I actually have data for all these molds, which, so if you're like Michael is like, manufacturers should come to us to get our stuff on their discs, so they know exactly how those discs fly. Or at least in the plastic that we use, the polypropylene.
Yeah,
but that might not be convenient to them, because right now they're selling you on a disc that's a 10, 4, -2, +2.
It's right here.
And really, you guys have the math that says otherwise, and they may or may not want to adhere to your math, even if it is more correct.
Yeah, flight numbers are a sales tool, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, it's a sales and communication tool, and I think the manufacturer that communicates more clearly, more widely first is going to see some advantage from that. So I think long term, manufacturers just want to communicate to their customers, what the heck does this disc do? Who is this for? And I think in the future we'll have a better tool than the flight numbers that we have today for that.
So
essentially we're going to hold their feet to the fire, because we're going to have data and analysis, and we're going to have the details to say, here's really what this disc does, and we can prove that, rather than someone saying, well, I think it should do this because I designed it this way, and my feels and a few throws in the field kind of lead me to think that. You guys will have, and there'll be plenty of actual data to back up a correct assignment and of what those numbers are.
And even just for an intermediate step, I'd love to see you guys share your throws from the TechDisc later on. But I'll bet you're pretty consistent on your throws because you've been playing for a long time.
Yeah.
It would be very easy for manufacturers to say, hey, all you players who are throwing low launch angle, high nose angle, here's the disc for you. That's a way for you to immediately say, oh, I need to check this one out, because this is exactly how I throw.
Does it show dip in your backhand? Because that's how Terry throws.
Yeah,
he gets all the way to the back, and then you can read what's on the back of the disc. It's a swoop.
Can I trademark the swoop that I come through with?
And I joke with him because he's done it for 20 years, and I'm no better. I'm not claiming that over here. Someone asked on the board, Sam, all the data that you've gotten, has it changed your bags at all? Based on you're like, oh, maybe I should really be trying this disc instead. I don't need that destroyer. It's too stable for me.
Most of what changes my bag is losing discs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry about that. Am I back?
Yeah,
you're back.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry. I don't think I play enough to really say one way or the other. It's definitely made me realize that I don't really need anything above a 9 speed. That's definitely true.
Another good question that came in off of the board from Sam. He said, if there was a new flight number or component, we'll say, or variable or whatever, would you add? Is there anything else you'd add to the chart or to the list of flight numbers? Is there any other gauge or something that is trackable or distinguishable, maybe?
No, I mean, I merged turn and fade into one number, kind of like the Discrest style. It's not exactly one number because speed is plays a big part of how quickly something will fade. So it's like really, it's how much is it going to turn during that high speed, and then the rest of the fade is dictated by like how turny it is, plus how like if it's a 12 speed, it's going to dump harder type of thing. Yeah, I would just say, grams of drag, just go to grams. And then for turn, I would like to see, I've designed a couple contraptions that can measure the turn of a disc. I haven't made any of them, but like this could be you could have a test rig, you put the disc in, it drops, like you have a drop chamber or something like that, and then it'll tell you what the turn of that disc is in some fixed units at that velocity, at the free fall velocity or whatever. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of interesting sciencey ways to go into flight numbers, for sure.
I know, Carino, you said you were looking for a change. I guess I want to back up even, in that same vein for you, Michael. All those years at Bushnell, seeing, like we said, seeing the rangefinders, get more integrated into disc golf. Was this just a market that you thought like, hey, I have to move forward on this because it intrigues me in a different way? You just needed a change. Like what? I mean, because that feels like an enormous leap to leave there,
an established company to a startup.
Yeah, to then go do this startup. What was kind of going through your mind in doing so?
Yeah, good question. It was a little challenging to do, but part of it is I had always told myself and my wife and other people that I wanted to do a startup at some point.
Okay.
And you wait 15 years and don't do a startup, and then you have a startup opportunity staring you in the face. You kind of have to jump. And I think there was the opportunity with a launch monitor in disc golf. From my perspective, standing and seeing some of the business side of the rangefinders and some of the golf side as well, it was so obvious that I kind of thought, if I don't do this, who is going to do this? I can't imagine a person in a better position than me right now to jump at this. And so it made a whole lot of sense to jump. And thankfully there was a couple maybe scary months, but fortunately not too many scary months. And it's been a great ride ever since. So, but it was very challenging to leave the team that we'd built at Bushnell. I feel like we had a pretty good business there and had done a lot of really good things. So that was not an easy decision for sure.
For both of you, what's been the biggest surprise in starting up a business of something you just never saw coming in doing this? You both have, great backgrounds, but what was something that's happened where you're like, oh my God, I never thought of that coming, and probably providing a hurdle? Has there been anything?
I've got like a million.
Okay.
Oh man, I mean, Karina, I'd love to hear your take as well, but just setting up payroll every step of the way in a new state, taxes, there's just a million things that feel like they're impossible, but yet somehow they get done. So I remember thinking back to maybe 9 months ago, looking at the orders we had to fulfill and the software features we wanted to build and thinking, I have no clue how we're going to find the people to build these features, find the people to build discs, scale this up in any reasonable way, and yet somehow we're doing it. So there's a lot of things along the way.
Okay. What's been like, oh my gosh, I never thought we would.
I mean, you're in the San Francisco area. Were you working for a startup before? Or were you working for an established company? If you can share who you were working with, I don't know.
It was both of those. I worked for Palantir Technologies.
Okay.
They make enterprise software, so you wouldn't have like bought it for yourself or used it personally, probably. Yeah, we built. I worked on a ton of cool stuff there, and yeah, I think with just the pandemic, working from home, and everything was just like. Got burned out on the whole especially in Silicon Valley, like no one's at the same company for 14 years, really.
Mm.
That's like pretty anomalous. So yeah, I had a big pull on that, and yeah, I took a year off, and I wasn't going to interview anywhere. I was like, I just wanted to just take a year off and see what happened. And so then I started throwing discs and getting outside, and then like after a year, I didn't have to like interview anywhere. I was just like, I'm going to do this thing now.
That's great.
So yeah.
Anything that just like you in disbelief of, though, that you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd have to cross this bridge or have this on my to-do list, or how am I going to get past this? Has there been anything crazy like that?
Not too much. Yeah, not that I can think of offhand.
Okay.
Well, so I guess then I'll ask you. We talked about all of the different development platforms. What's toughest for you? Like, what's the thing that you kind of like? Oh God, like whether it's Python or physics or like where do you struggle? I'm
not a big Python lover. If we're going languages, not a huge Python lover, but it was a good tool for the simulator. There's a lot of good science libraries in Python. And so there are some that basically do a lot of the heavy lifting of the simulation. It makes it a lot easier to implement. Yeah, there's where do I struggle? Probably I would say time management, project management, these types of things.
Okay.
I mean, don't incriminate yourself too much here.
The CEO's right there.
He's like, huh? What time? I didn't see you logged in this morning.
I'm okay at product management. I'm okay at that. Yeah.
Well, listen, anytime you can go to the golf course, it's just you're working on a project.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just research.
It's just you're doing some research.
I'm doing R&D out here. On hole 17.
Go to league and get smashed some beers.
Not enough R&D happening recently. We definitely need a little more on-course R&D.
There you go. All right. Well, the nuts and bolts of it. What are we looking at price wise? Inventory. How do people get them? What are some suggestions? Is there going to be a Black Friday sale? Like, give us the pitch there.
Yeah. So go to shop.techdisc.com. A TechDisc is $300 in the United States and Canada. We have a few select retailers in Europe. We're just starting to get that program going. So keep an eye out there. But we've been on a pre-order basis since we launched last year. And another little announcement, in a couple of weeks, we should be going in stock so that you can order a TechDisc and get it shipped out within 1 to 2 weeks. So that'll be a big change for us internally that hopefully external people won't care about too much. But that'll be a big deal for us, and hopefully get TechDiscs into people's hands a lot sooner. If you're on the site looking at what to buy, we typically recommend a fairway driver.
Okay.
We've got Discraft ESP. We have Innovastar plastic. So choose your favorite plastic. Fairway drivers are generally best because you can practice your power grip for distance drivers. You can also practice a fan grip or whatever else you might do for slower discs. So if you're going to get one, go ahead and get all four. But if you're going to get just one, probably the fairway driver.
And is there? I guess I could just do a little more digging around. Is it all four for $1,000? Is that the exclusive SmashBox discount? No. So $299 is what we have listed on here, and that's if you were to purchase any of the different models or molds.
Yep, that's right. And then the software, which is iPhone app, Android app, web app, that all comes for free. You can download those anytime, and one click to turn the disc on, one click to connect to the disc in your app, and you're ready to throw.
Okay.
Any reason there's no hot stamp? If you're buying from manufacturers? Yes. I was thinking, like, would it throw off the weight, having
drag,
something like that? Like,
no, that's a really good question. There is a hot stamp on the bottom.
Yeah.
For the regulatory information. We really wanted to emphasize that this is not a golf disc that you throw in the course or put in your bag. And we'd love to have, some really cool,
Then make it a
distinctive.
groove. Just kidding.
Ouch.
Shots fired,
I have a
Danova. Groove is the one disc everyone likes to pick on.
Yeah. I've got my champion groove from back in the day. Although my
There you
kids
go.
Me
made
too.
it into a Father's Day card. No, but we couldn't think of a hot stamp design that would make it not look like a golf disc.
Okay.
And so we went blank. I think we'll revisit that in the future, but really trying to make it look like a measuring tool and not a golf disc.
Obviously, a lot of conversation about it collecting all this data in the first, what'd you say, 20 milliseconds, and or 3 to 5 feet, whatever that is. If somebody wanted to go just throw it in a soccer field or wherever to actually throw it, any discouraging of that, or how does that matter
No,
other than making you more tired?
You'll get more tired. It's a great use case. And what we typically recommend is if you're going to take all your fairway drivers out, you take 5 Explorers and your fairway tech disc. Throw your 5 Explorers and then throw your fairway tech disc so you can see what you were doing to those 5 Explorers. It's kind of like recovering from injury. Like just keep track and measure where are you at that day. Even if I'm running up in tall grass, my speed might be a little bit lower than normal. It might be humid and hot that day in Kansas City, and so I'm throwing a little slower, or not imparting the same spin I normally would. It's still a great tool in the field. It's just you have to go pick it up and throw it again. So
Well, good thing we don't have to go
Pros
very
and
far,
cons.
Tara.
No. All right. Final question almost is what's the biggest misconception or misnomer or dispel rumor, whatever? Maybe we could chalk it up as the dumbest thing you've heard. I don't know. But what is that if you got an open floor to say this is absolutely incorrect or untrue or whatever you want to say it? Anything you want to address?
yeah, you can change the flight numbers of your tech disc.
Okay.
You can change your flight numbers. If you're throwing your tech disc and the simulation shows that it's hyzering out really early, make it less understable.
Mm.
More
So-
understable.
More
Yeah, more understable.
Sorry,
That's all
make it
you need
more
to do.
make it more understable.
Yeah.
Give it a
Okay.
lower turn number, more negative.
Is there a rough estimate? I don't know if this gets too into the weeds. Is there a rough estimate of how many of these are in the wild right now?
There's several thousand in the wild.
Okay.
And if there isn't one at your local disc golf store, tell your
Complain.
local disc golf store to get one and reach out to us. We've got a couple features just for stores that are pretty cool.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Warranties, expected life expectancy on one, all those types of things. What applies?
Yeah, so we've got a 1-year warranty
Okay.
when you get the disc. It does not cover if you hit a brick wall or if you throw it into a pool or hot tub.
Mm.
How will you
Um,
know?
Well, they'll know.
We actually do know.
that extra chip is like it's not the IP96 or whatever those things are.
Yeah. We will still take care of you some way, but so reach out if that happens. Accidents do happen, but
Uh-huh.
please don't throw it in a hot tub.
Throw it out of the hot.
We do actually. We have error reporting built into the disc, so we will actually proactively reach out if we see your disc reporting an error,
Mm.
And then we'll just send you a replacement, no problem. So we'd love to extend that warranty later on, but we've only been in business for a year,
Mhm.
and so we're gonna get some more data and see how far we can go. We've got discs with 15,000 throws on them, so we definitely designed it and build this to last a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems honestly, having never held one or seen one, like just the build quality seems really good. Honestly, it's great, and I'm really excited.
All right.
to
Quit being
try
a
it out.
shill. All right. We know yours.
They say I'm going to throw further. I get internet distance with this disc.
Yes.
Quite literally.
Yeah, it'll be on the internet and then some. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you for all the incredible insight. I mean,
Great.
if I if I had all these dumb questions, I know everybody else did. So I appreciate that you guys are willing to give us all the information, background data, and history of everything that people can go out and experience. And obviously, like you said, shop.techdisc.com is a place you can go out and find them. We're not making any royalties on these. We just want cool technology and entrepreneurs and hard workers like these guys to succeed. So thank you so much for showing us everything you did and talking to us about this tonight.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having us.
All right.
Yeah,
Have a good
pleasure.
night.
Hey,
All right.
there's
we'll
a
see you
share button
soon.
in the app, Terry.
What's
Use
that?
the share button. There's a share button in the app.
Oh, the share button in the app. Perfect.
We can throw it against the Smashbox thing right here behind us.
All right. Well,
wanna
you
see
just
some
make sure
growth
you
from you
sign up
guys.
for my virtual tournament. Coming to you. All right. See you guys. Have a good
yeah.
night.
You guys.
Good night, guys. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Reno, along with Michael. Awesome.
Seems like two
Awesome.
solid dudes. And again, I'm sold on TechDisc.
Yeah, pretty sweet. I'm selling this one for just $3.99. You can get your hands on it today.
Oh.
It's pretty sweet.
If we sign it, does it devalue it? Probably.
Oh, we were going to ask them if they were giving out 5 of them tonight. The giveaways. All right. Let's go quickly run through some of the the disc golf that got played this weekend.
Oh,
we saw
geez.
some international stuff, and then one of the larger tournaments going on in the country that we know of was actually just 5-6 hours west of us over at the Majestic. That was one of the A tiers. But let's run through the quickly some Swedish Open results.
Yeah. James Proctor getting his very first Elite Series win.
F yeah. Nice work. Congrats, James.
Just couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Just got married. You know, he's always kind of been that guy that you'd heard about early in his career. I think I'd heard things about his was he fairly certain he was at the college championships?
That sounds about right.
Years and years
I was gonna
ago.
say, I feel like I knew him even before that. Maybe.
That's
But
when
yeah.
I started hearing about him. Like, I didn't know him before then, but he was kind of the guy that's like, oh no, he's like one of the real pros at the college place back when it was starting out. And so James Proctor ends up winning this by 3 strokes, which is, I believe, is what he went into the final round with. No, he went into the final round with, oh, maybe it was. But either way, 3-stroke victory for James Proctor over Joey Buckets Anderson. Josef Andersson, as they were saying on the the broadcast, tied second place, Mari Vielman and Paul Macbeth. So a 3-way tie at 21 under. James Proctor at 24 under. 5th place, a tie between Oni Arminen and Dennis Augustin. 7th place, Roland Cour. And a 3-way tie for 8th between Pekka Haivanen, Bradley Williams, and I want to thank this guy, Eetu Tuminen, because I picked him up in my fantasy league.
Yeah, you did.
He was sitting out there. I grabbed him, and I wasn't sure how he was going to play, but he ended up taking top 10, so I can't complain. So thank you very much, Eetu. We're going to go down over to FPO. On a hot streak right now, Silva Saarinen, 5 wins in a row.
Yeah. Could you imagine 5 wins in a row is so impressive. Everything she's doing is so impressive. Just running the table in the month of June, which
Ain't so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, she started out winning the Norway Open back in the end of May, early June. That was a silver event. Another silver event, the Hanola Open, powered by Gippus. Then she went to a full DGBT event, the Turku Open, where she won that one. Then another silver event, the Ale Open. And now the Swedish Open, another DGBT event. So she is kicking some butt, taking some names, just ultimately playing very, very, very good disc golf. Excited. She's so young. It's such an exciting thing that we're going to see this phenom for the next, hopefully, like 10 or 15 years. So her putting is just out of this world. Second place, Henna Blomroos, who actually was in first place, I believe, going into the final round. But Silva picked up 5 on her. And then third place, Ella Hansen. Fourth place, Maria LD. I'm gonna blow this one. K. Maria LDK. She was winning after the first round. She shot a scorching 55 which was, if I hit here, show round ratings. I looked at it earlier and now I can't remember what it was.
1004.
1004.
Okay.
Because I remember looking after that first day on Friday when I woke up, because they had played Friday in the morning, and I was like, wow, who is this person? I literally never heard of her, but apparently she's the highest rated woman in Iceland. So congratulations. And a tie for 5th place between Rachel Turton and Evelina Salonen. So that is your Swedish Open presented by Castoplast.
I'll say it again. Congrats, James Proctor. Pretty incredible. And as the Disc Golf Pro Tour released a little video after the fact, where earlier in the year, before the year started, the question was asked to some players, who's going to get breakout, or who's going to get their first big win, or who's, that person. And of course, a handful of people had said James, and
just based on what he did last year.
Yeah.
Like
last few years,
he rarely, well, 2 years ago, he didn't play well when he joined the tour. Last year, he came out on his second year on tour and barely left the top 10. And then it felt like it was a matter of time.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to quickly talk about some of the other events that happened here over in the States. The 40th anniversary Mid-America Open, presented by Discraft. Aaron Gossage wins this by a stroke over Emerson Keith. 3rd place, Parker Welk and Freddie Meza. And in 5th place, Ty Love, going down to FPO. Hannah Wynn takes this one down by 5 strokes over Alexis Kerman. We're going to look at Discraft's Oakland County Championships, which is actually in Milford, Michigan. So Oakland County, different than California. Zach Arlinghouse takes that in a playoff between Lucas Hess. So congratulations to those two. And over on FPO, Ashley Bauman wins by 2 strokes over Vanessa Van Dyken. So congratulations to Ashley. And then we're going to talk about the one close to home here, the one you and I have played this.
Mm-hmm.
The Majestic. Cedar, Minnesota. Andrew Marweed wins by 1 stroke over Adam Hammis. 3rd place, a tie between Cale LaVisca and Andrew Presnell. And in 5th place, Luke Taylor. So Luke's a name that we've been mentioning a lot lately. He's staying up there at the top of the field. So congratulations to Andrew Marweed on your win. $2,300. What a good showing for him. And over on FPO, 6-stroke victory by Owen Scoggins over Raven Klein. Raven playing some good golf right now. Congratulations to Raven. 3rd place, Emily Weatherman. 4th place, Chantel Badinsky. And in tie for 5th between Katrina Allen, 8-month pregnant Katrina Allen, and Deanne Carey. So congratulations to everyone who cashed, but congratulations again to Katrina Allen. I know she's registered for Des Moines. Who knows if she's going to play? She just took 5th place at the Majestic. So you know what? If you're feeling good, keep rolling with it. That's a lot of diaper money.
Yeah. I had to look. I thought it was 96. I'm glad I didn't spit it out. It was 1997 is when I played the Majestic. I don't think that was I didn't think you went to that one.
Nope, I did not.
Yet. But 1997, me and a couple other buddies from our hometown
I think it was
had traveled over there.
I believe my first year was 98 because we played that and then Spam Town.
Yeah, that's possible. But yeah, 97. And interestingly enough, who won in 1997? Scott Stokely. So pretty funny and a pretty solid throwback in that sense. Scott Stokely, Mike Randolph, Barry Schultz. So, and on the FPO side, JK, Juliana Korver. So
no shock. Some things don't change.
Yeah, I love it. So
those are pretty much your events here in over in the States. There was, that's it.
Okay.
Those are the good ones.
I like it. Well, congrats to all of those players. Obviously, there's quite a time difference where we're looking at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning over there in Sweden. So not expecting to get a hold of a James Proctor, but hopefully maybe as things keep rolling, we'll be able to catch up and have a little chat with him.
And to correct myself, I mean, not to correct myself, but to maybe rub it in my face, Tim mentions that Kona recently won and got a European Open bid and decided to go over. just
Yeah.
recently. Like I had said that, and I stand
last week. Yeah, you
last
were
week I stand
blah
by
blahing.
I stand by what I say, in that
Yeah.
I think it's silly that we're giving out invites this late, especially for something that's overseas. But Kona,
yeah, she was able to pull it off.
she was able to win, and because Colton was already going over,
Yeah.
she decided like, hey, why not? I'm going to rock and roll. Let's go. So congratulations to Kona.
Yeah. Pretty cool to see. So, and President's Cup, along those lines, when we're talking about there, I saw
The teams were picked.
the teams were more or less in place, except for a couple of the fan votes, and that's all that needed to be decided upon. And I'm embarrassed to say I did not. Well, I'm not embarrassed. I did not see on the FPO side, but I'm going to find out right now. No, I'm not. All right, I got to go somewhere else to find it, but I believe I saw earlier today on some socials that Paul Macbeth was selected for the fan vote on the MPO side.
Shocking.
There's a lot of quality players, and to be fair, he, as big of a name as he clearly is, and whatever, there's some other people that I'm sure were voting also based on the thought of like, well, no, he's not our best player.
No.
Per how he's been playing.
I'm willing to bet the fan vote, most people are going to vote Paul Macbeth because they want to see him play. They care less about who is the best player right now, whether he is or isn't, even though he did just have a really great showing. I think you want to see Macbeth play. And so more people than are probably voting just to see Macbeth play. But
all right, well, to list out, it looks like I'm seeing Albert Tom selected as the European fan vote winner. So congratulations to him, and then also Paul. Okay, so it does say there was no doubt about the fans' favorites, as both Paul Macbeth and Albert Tom racked up over 50% of their team's votes. Read more in the link in our bio. The question is, was there not an FPO fan vote?
I don't believe there was an FPO.
They were just automatically selected.
Because there's only 2 positions for FPO, and I think they were just automatically selected.
Okay, well then I stand corrected. So, all right. I mean, is Kat going to play in that too? No, I don't think she's...
quick flyover and... yeah.
All right. Earl E. Bird, Early Bird, said, best majestic memory was The Putt by Kale to Ty Climo. An early viral clip could show... Yeah, no doubt. It gives me kind of chills just thinking about watching that putt and everything that you're talking about. I obviously recall exactly what you're talking about, so... Pretty cool. All right. I don't know if there's anything else that's necessary for the regular show. I don't have a ton for the after show, but I think we could probably end things there. PDGA voting is now taking place. I received my ballot yesterday. I'm not sure if you did already or if it's unfolding the next day or two, but ballots for 3 PDGA board of director seats. I think, what is there, 7 total people that it was whittled down to. So you can pick 3 people out of the 7 candidates. 3 spots need to be filled, and there's 7 candidates. I already got my voting done yesterday.
I've not voted yet because I don't think I've seen my vote come.
Yeah,
in.
and that's what I'm saying. You might not have received it. I'm not sure how they were rolling it out. If you didn't get it yet, I'm sure you'll be getting it soon. If you're a current PDGA member, is what my guess would be, is that you'd see it roll out soon. All right. I think that is all that I have for regular stuff right now. Maybe I had some notes somewhere. I'm just going to check and see if we had any other notes that are of significance.
I didn't see anything. Nothing that we can't talk about in the
after show. All right. Let's do it then. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much to the guys over at TechDisc for joining us. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about not only what it can do, but then also the story and the background. And I love the entrepreneur spirit, obviously. Anyone that's willing to take that leap. And as when Michael said that, he felt like he was in the best possible position and the best person to go after it and try this, that was almost verbatim what I remember saying to my mom when I left my corporate job. I said, if I don't do this now, I don't know if I'll ever do it, and I have to try this right now. That was August of 2003. And I can very much understand that spirit of don't sit around and wait. Don't sit around and procrastinate and or think that you may have the regret later. Take the leap, whatever it might be. Live a little. And it's plenty of things can be scary, but I can't say it enough how much I love and appreciate that mentality of him taking that leap. So, and I think disc golf's going to be better and continue to improve because of some of the work he's doing along with the rest of his entire team. So congrats to them. That's pretty cool. All right. That's it. That is episode number 513. We're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we'll have the giveaway as we do every week. TechDisc for everybody. Maybe. We'll give you the secret coupon code to get it for free. TechDisc for everybody. But no, we'll also then have some after show fodder and see what else is going on in or outside of disc golf. For Johnny V, I'm the disc golf guy. That's 513. We'll see you in a moment in the after show. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV Podcast 513's After Show.
Of all the stats for TechDisc, what would you be most interested to find out about yourself? Like general, obviously, there's speed. There's
speed and RPMs. I mean, only because I have no idea what my RPMs would be.
Yeah, that's kind of where I sit.
I just feel like if you told me it was 500 or 900, I would just absolutely have no clue. I'd have no guess even what it'd be when he tells me, when they say, the fastest they've ever seen is 1800. That definitely makes me think, okay, well, I'm at best a third of that. I was going to say half, but I'm probably at best a third of that. 1800?
No, you're probably a little more than that.
I don't know, maybe 900. I don't know.
I bet you 800 or 900.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So that will be interesting to note. Wobble, I think, is an interesting one because it's so funny because last night I actually went out and threw some discs for a little while. And I was debating if I wanted to make any kind of video out of it or not, but the amount of disdain, I don't think is disdain is maybe too formal and or too big of a word for some.
A bit extreme.
Just how often people rip on discs simply because they're old models. Is actually amusing to me. Oh, dude, you must be 40. You throw a rock. No one under the age of 40 throws a rock or an AVR. Just as an example. And I think, first of all the world titles, one with various discs, and I know there was not nearly as many alternatives at the time. But if you throw any disc well, and it does exactly what you want it to do, why does somebody else give a shit how old the disc is, other than just this perceived association with it?
I agree. It's just that today, especially for mid-ranges, things like that, everything's overstable. Like, that is the, like, how overstable can I get it? I need a really I need the OS zone. The OS zone OS.
Yeah, exactly.
So because it's got to dump. I mean, I don't want to be able to throw this thing more than, 72 feet.
Yeah.
And it
just needs to dump.
It just needs a dump. Like, that's kind of the mentality. Similar with the Toro. It's an overstable mid. Like, that's what everybody throws. That's what everybody's been clamoring for. That's what everybody wants. I don't see a lot of people begging for your.
Oh yeah, nobody's begging for a present day comet.
A comet, a meteor, a cobra, whatever that might be. Everybody just want, and it's a different game, obviously, as we know, because people want the dump because they're throwing forehand and backhand. Everybody throws forehand and backhand these days. We're not in that group. Like I said, I literally threw a forehand out of a tree that went 27 feet before it went into the ground, and I looked at it and went, I'm not further in this tree.
I watched myself throw a couple of, I'm not attempting to brag, but there was a few shots that required 250, 275, whatever the case was.
Yeah.
And I threw some absolutely perfect shots that I wanted to throw. The line I was trying to throw, and I'm doing it with a disc that is almost 30 years old.
Yeah.
However, if I'm playing with a newer style player or a newer player in general, it's funny that they would be like, nobody throws that. Nobody throws that anymore. What is that?
Yeah,
and again, I have a very old school bag because I'm not out there golfing. I'm not out there practicing. I'm playing a few rounds a year. I have no reason to go out and try to overhaul my bag. And even if I did,
with TechDisc, you can do that, Terry.
I don't believe I would. I believe I would get, maybe you would see a marginal improvement at best if I also am putting in no additional work or effort to train or get better. So it just, I don't know why it was hitting me so hard last night, because I'm looking at this really old bag of mine and I'm thinking, yeah, half this stuff somebody would be making fun of me for. And it just seems like a really dumb mindset and mentality just because it's an older model that's not nearly as popular today as it maybe once was. Of course, at the end of the day, as with anything, you should use whatever tools suit you best to get the job done, whatever that might be. And if somebody wants to throw a 13 speed on a 188-foot hole, but they park it and they get a birdie, 99 out of 100 times, I don't judge. I don't care. There's some things that maybe go against the grain in terms of like standard or stereotypical logic in, like, we'll say an instance like that, because most people would probably be aspiring to throw a mid or a putter at that distance. But if it doesn't, who cares? And if you're throwing a groove or a force to 187 feet, but you're dropping it 3 feet from the basket every day, who really cares? I know this sounds all too obvious, but I think that sentiment, though, is getting louder. And it seems silly to me. Like we're associating an age almost with a particular either set of discs or brand of discs. That seems silly to me.
The nature of the beast. As we evolve.
I don't know. I velcroed up my Etonics. What were the
shoes?
Yeah. What were those?
Yeah.
Etonics?
I think it was Etonics.
Yeah, Etonics? No? Anyway, that didn't
Your joke fell a little flat.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I pumped up my Reeboks and I went out there and I played with the damn things that worked for me. Either way.
Yeah.
All right.
We have to talk briefly about the biggest news in disc golf this last week. The Silas Schultz diss track.
Obviously, it was since the last broadcast. So
I think it literally dropped like last Wednesday.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday or Thursday, yeah.
Okay.
Everybody knows, but I'll give a quick history. Drew made a funny video, whatever, about Silas's form and hit a tree. Silas responded with a kind of, I don't say cutthroat, it's not the right word, but cut to the meat of it, diss track about Drew Gibson. And I'm not going to play it here. I'm not going to do whatever, but it felt like Drew threw a joke and Silas threw a bomb, and internet loved it. Silas ended up taking it down. Drew, I think, maybe asked to have it taken down because it made a comment. I think it was because of the comment about his girlfriend, but I don't know for sure. We haven't talked to Drew about it, or Silas for that matter. Discmania now selling a disc called, the disc track. Is it disc track? Disc track? So I think it's the disc track. It's an older stamp, but they updated it, and the thing looks like it's coming out of or disc golf. That's what it was. Thank you, disc golf. And it looks like it's coming out of a record sleeve. You don't get the record sleeve with the actual disc. Great marketing, good plan. I don't know if there's much else to say about it other than I thought it was funny. I thought it was humorous. Silas won't be quitting his day job of disc golf to go join anyone on a rap tour, but it was, and I've said this. I'm on record here for months saying that we need more of this in disc golf. We need more. I don't say bad guys, but rivalries. And if this is what Spurs won, by all means, let's make it happen. We need more of this in disc golf. Someone even reached out to me when this dropped, and they're like, "Johnny, is this what you mean?" And I kind of thought, yeah, this is fun. It's relatively lighthearted. It's not super serious, but it's enough to draw attention. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, he was clearly going after Drew with some playful jabs. The question became, when was it more than just playful, and whether that was a perception by Drew's case or by any of the, he made a reference at one point to Double G, which, Double G may or may not have, taken some offense to. There's a few components to it.
I know there's not much to say about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really have anything to say about it. I'm
waiting for Drew's response, his diss track.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see that or not. Maybe we will. It was the way that it kind of came out of the blue, but then yet immediately picked up some serious traction, I think was pretty astonishing to see within our sport.
Well, because we don't see things like this
exactly,
very often.
And the fact that it just kind of came out of nowhere. So anyway, yeah, unfortunately it's not out there. I'm sure there's some people that saved it and it's still available in other spots.
Oh yeah, you can find it on the internet.
Silas, in fact, had removed it from his social media, even though it's already out there in other places. So we'll see if it spurs anything else. We'll see if it's squashed, if this is the new Drake Kendrick beef,
It's not even close.
We'll see if it gets to that level, but yeah. Who knows?
But it's things like this I want to say. I want Silas to make a diss track about every player at some point, just for fun. Release an album, buddy.
There's the
that's
problem
streaming-
is
that's
there's going to be
Someone's going to take it seriously.
yeah,
and I know.
and you know, as much fun as he may be having with it or could have with it, there's going to be one that's going to cut a little close or feel a little too personal, and I don't think he needs to.
No, he
I don't
doesn't.
think he needs to. I mean, at that point, especially if he does it unprovoked, like Drew, in a sense, provoked him, intentionally or not. Drew provoked him, and this was a response to Drew. But for Silas just to be like, wow, let me
talk about Kelvin Heimberg.
Yeah, let me just bust out another 10 names. I don't know. I don't know that that's necessary, but Silas is a big boy. He can do what he wants.
Of all people to to pick on, Silas's social media in general is fire. Like, he's so good at it. And we've talked about him for a few years now about that. And not the guy I probably, and granted, I'm sure Drew wasn't thinking he was quote unquote going after Silas. He was just making a joke. But yeah, Silas probably not the guy I'd poke. There's if I had to pick somebody, it wouldn't be him. So just funny.
Sam on the board, a little scared to read this. Sam says, real question for Terry. I've heard and seen lots of talk about the slowdown
in disc golf. How it has affected flex starts or manufacturing
sponsorship of C and B tiers. How are you feeling? I mean, it's real. I mean, I personally feel okay. I'd like to feel like I'm pretty diversified within our sport of wearing a number of different hats and doing different things. And on any given day, I feel like I could pivot or adjust or you know, maybe pursue something I've been putting on the back burner. But it definitely has been real. I don't think discs are selling nearly as quickly as they have been. You see some sales that are happening and people kind of close out or reduce inventory, I think, because they maybe just have too much on hand. Obviously, we've seen a few cutbacks and layoffs and consolidations.
Changes in sponsorship
House of
this
Disc
week
in general has created a totally just different atmosphere because they're taking all these individual brands that are now under one umbrella. So just by doing that alone, I feel like is going to create some consolidation. Let's face it, maybe there was 5 different shipping managers for those 5 different brands, and now maybe you only need 1 or 2. Like, just as one random example, or one, whatever the case might be, where in some of those cases they can experience some of that consolidation where business-wise it made the most sense.
Do you think House of Disc is, I don't say regretting, that's not the right word, but they kind of got in at the high.
They did.
And whatever they paid, we know that the value is 80%, 70% probably of what they were valued at when they were purchased. I don't know.
Perhaps. And I would say only time will tell as to what that's going to look like moving forward. There's no way for us to be able to predict. I think we all assumed at some point disc golf would slow down a little bit.
We all kind of knew it was coming.
Or maybe plateau. But the rate in which it would keep growing, when we were experiencing 10 to 12 to 15% annual growth for the last 20 or 30 years, and then we have this major shoot up for a couple of years to see where it's going to then, eventually pick back up. Yeah, really tough to say. I know tournaments largely, I can't say largely, the small sample size I have is that I don't feel tournaments are selling out instantly like
not
they
instantly.
were.
They're still usually filling up, but not as quickly as they were.
Not quite as quickly, and I just don't think nearly as many discs. Now, I think you take that and also expand and say, which segment of the market is hurting when I think of 5 different winners not in the FPO side, but on the MPO side, let's just say you have 5 different winners over 5 weeks, and you have a different manufacturer every time making a commemorative disc. And are those being bought as much? Just in general, is the support there?
No.
Because it feels like...
no offense to her, but who's buying this Silva Swedish Open disc? How many are they really going to sell?
That's a good question.
500? Like I don't know what that number is, and I hope everyone buys.
And are you
one.
going to go broke buying Silva discs because she specifically keeps winning?
She keeps winning. I'm going to have a whole Silva wall. Just those type of things, unless it's a hugely beloved player like Simon. I think Simon discs are probably still going to sell.
But even those are probably slowing down.
Oh, of course. They have to be.
Even if he won the next 5 events, if he won, 5 events 3 years ago compared to 5 events now, just simply not as many discs are going to move off the shelf, no matter what the popularity is. Yeah, overall, it's clearly on a downturn. Some people invested in extra molding machines. Is there other ways to get creative? Is there other collaborations they could be doing with other companies? That's something that comes to mind. Yeah, are you becoming a main vendor for TechDisc, or are we going to see other people pivot into just that? Like we were just saying with TechDisc, Michael obviously was a big component of building up the Bushnell brand in terms of being a rangefinder for disc golf, and then just
are they still doing stuff with the tour now?
Yeah,
are they? Okay,
yeah. So
I haven't. I haven't seen a lot of
here, buddy.
I haven't seen a lot of like Bushnell commercials.
Well, I mean, they also
I know they're doing
presented the Champions Cup, right?
You're right, they did. Yes.
So, I'm sure they're involved with and maybe it's the distance competition that Michael was talking about. Maybe we'll see that again in October. I'm not sure exactly all of which they're specifically supporting and whatnot, but I can't imagine that they're going anywhere anytime soon. Now, will they scale back possibly in terms of their overall contributions? Probably, but I don't think that they're going to go anywhere. So I don't know. It's tough to say. Brad /Disc Blaster says PDGA and DGPT are responsible for the slowdown. I don't know if I could think of a less.
Why are you reading?
Well, I know. I don't know why I'm reading it, but I guess I just had to say.
Troll comments.
I don't know if I can think of a less insightful baseless statement. I don't know how they're responsible for slowing things down.
We can see it also in some of the Mahmood posted something on Twitter about the preserve viewership. And you can see, obviously, you've got the ones that are from 5 years ago that have a lot more views, but you can see the almost the drops. Like there's 2 distinct drops in viewership. One was 2 years ago, and the other was 4 years ago. And 2 years ago, I think a lot of that has to do with live.
Certainly,
but and then there's one 4 years ago. Is that people getting sick of that? Is that the pandemic kind of stuff? That was the height of the pandemic. We're gonna see these things. We're going to notice it. I'm not involved as much in the Pro Tour. I can't imagine their subscription numbers are skyrocketing like they had originally planned. I bet you, last I had heard it was around 50,000, maybe 55,000, but that was, I think, a year and a half ago. I don't know what the numbers are these days. But I would be shocked if they had, gained 20% when everybody else is tailing off. But we're seeing everything tail off. It's not
exactly.
It's not just DGN. It's Jomez. It's all post production. It's disc sales. We reached out. I know we reached out to some people at Prodigy and maybe wanting to talk about them this week. We saw that Vinyl landed with Innova, just like
who spoiled that?
Everybody?
I'm just thinking about the stupid comments I heard last week.
About
how I spoiled it during the live broadcast.
During the live broadcast.
When we ran the commercial.
Just like Kevin Jones did. Kevin Jones went to Innova as well. So Prodigy is probably feeling the pain of the slowdown. And
clearly, they're not unique in that sense.
No, not at all. It's not just them.
So... all right. Reading a few more comments. Dustin, we kind of briefly talked about it. James Proctor getting the big win, of course, over there. Pretty cool to see his third. If he gets there, probably not as much. I don't even want to call it a monkey. I don't know if he was necessarily.
He didn't feel like one of those, like, it's been so long.
Yeah, but he's out there. He's been out there grinding, and he's and let's put it this way: no one was shocked And that is nothing but a compliment to him. Is no one's thinking, oh my God, how did some rando, how did this Proctor fella possibly pull it off? It was pretty clear and obvious that it was just a matter of time for him to do so. And having the likes of Antala, on record at the beginning of the year saying as much, saying that he thinks he's going to get a big win, his first big win, kind of backs that up. So pretty cool to see. Of course, brilliant brilliant suggestions coming in from our Disc Blaster friend telling us that it should go very cheap or free and sell advertising is how the likes of presumably Disc Golf Network should run.
How'd that work for Jomez? They were free and selling advertising.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And now they're part of the Pro Tour.
Yeah. And I think advertising is currently sold as it is, and advertising alone is not enough to make it happen. No PDGA membership. The PDGA membership has been the same price for I don't know how many years, quite a few now. And I don't know how selling memberships for something you voluntarily can sign up for, how that would be slowing the growth of disc golf. I don't understand. Again, before I hurt my brain, I'm going to quit even addressing your incoherent thoughts. Dustin does say DGN having different tiers is confusing. The product, though, should have stuck to one tier. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know that we know for sure how well that has or hasn't paid off. It feels like you see a lot of different tiers for things like streaming services. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's necessarily crazy. Now, was it a good decision?
Multiple streams.
I mean, I guess we'll know if in a year or two or at some point DGN comes back and says, hey, you know what? It's one flat fee. I think one of the biggest challenges to that, and this is maybe insider info that's still public, is when an event like the European Open wants to maintain their coverage rights, or you deal with a USDGC, which has very different coverage rights and media rights compared to, say, a World Championships. That's why it's so difficult for DGN, because we've tried this model before where DGN has media rights to 92% of all the tournaments. But then there's two tournaments that they don't have media rights to that aren't within a package, and then they get sold separately on a different platform like a pay-per-view channel, and then everyone complains and says, why isn't this included? I'm not paying separate, F this, F that. I don't want that. So DGN this year had a philosophy of, hey, we're going to offer you a bunch of events, and if you want to pay a premium or pay a higher tier, you'll also get those other events included all right here to basically make payment a little less painless and more seamless in taking care of it all at one spot. Because understandably, a lot of people said, why am I watching DGN coverage for 92% of tournaments, but then for 2 other tournaments a year, I have to go to a completely different website, sign up for a completely different thing to get this online coverage. And DGN, I think, is trying to eliminate one of those barriers and saying, hey, if you want to do it all through us, we have the capabilities of doing it. You're going to do it right here in this one spot. And of course, people don't like that either, but this is going to always come back to a you can't please everyone scenario.
Correct. And I would be willing to go out on a limb and say if the Pro Tour had their way, everybody would be under one subscription.
I would.
And then they would have premium tiers for certain things like, extra Jomez stuff or the putting game or more behind the scenes things, the extra streams that you see from holes, the feature hole broadcasts. I would be willing to bet that that's what they would like to do. But there are different people that are in control of different events and different power plays that just don't, that just, it's not going to happen right now. That could change in the future, but.
And by all means, I'm not going to claim that everything's perfect, nor will Johnny. We're all sifting through still what the best business practices are going to be. I know everyone thinks they know what always the best business practices are just because you have a hunch or you think. There's going to continue to be a lot of trial and error, I think, for a number of years, because we're talking about a newer technology, newer capabilities. all of these things that continue to grow and build in a very small sport. And I've never claimed everything's perfect. And I'm not suggesting everyone you just sit down and shut up and like it. I'm not suggesting that either. I'm just trying to give a little more backstory as to how I think or why we've arrived at a few of the decisions that are made. Time's going to tell if those are good decisions or not. But just because you don't like it and you have a hunch doesn't necessarily mean tens of thousands of other people completely agree with you, or that's the way the company should act.
Yeah, Dust asks, why would I pay for the second tier for $12.99 every month when the majors only take place at a single moment in time? I mean, in theory, that's a valid question. There are other things you get with the premium, the pro tier.
Yeah.
That's what they're selling you on. They're selling you on the feature broadcast, the alternate commentary streams. They're trying to sell you
non-commentary streams.
The non-commentary
dedicated
streams.
holes that are offered, more access to some of the tournament centrals that aren't available to everybody. Now you can assess for yourself
whether
whether you find that additional value worth it or not. But at least there's the option that has been made available. And if you don't like any of those things for the $12.99 a month, well then there's certain things that you could just buy on a one-off basis as well. I understand they're trying to appease to as many people as possible, and no matter what, you're just not going to hit the mark for every single individual consumer at home. And also, for the record, if this isn't obvious, Johnny and I have zero input in any of that decision making, in any of those finances, or anything to do with it. So if you're mad at us, your
well, I don't think
anger is misdirected.
Hopefully, nobody's mad at us. Yeah, we don't make any of those decisions.
So. All right. Glenn. Hey, Glenn. Hope you guys are doing well out there. We see Dustin, Glenn, whole bunch of people. Tim says, I pay top tier. Okay. Well, it clearly has found value for you, Tim, and I think that's great. And if somebody else says, I'm good with just watching the free day on Thursday. Okay.
And then catching up with Jomez, which is free.
Yeah, or whatever. Do whatever you want. Good. Find your happy. If that's still a thing.
Find your happy.
All right, I've got a silly story. Last week, I don't know if it's did I tell this story last week when I went and got my oil changed?
No.
So I go and get my oil changed because I just ain't that smart to do it on my own, nor do I have any of the resources to easily do it. So I go get my oil changed, and I'm waiting in the room, which has great internet. And I always think in like their little waiting room area. I go to the dealership.
It's probably 300 by 20, and no one's on it.
And no, it was way faster than by 20. It was.
Oh, really? Good.
Oh, yeah, the upload was in, and that's all I ever care about.
Then maybe they have like AT&T fiber.
Because all I keep thinking about is, if I need to upload videos, I should just come here.
Yeah, I mean, you should in general do a speed test and figure out who the provider is. But okay.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, but it was good. So I'm in there waiting. Sales manager guy comes up, says something or other about the travels, and it's been crazy lately. I said, yeah. He goes, oh, did you go down on the southern swing? Did you go down south with everybody? I'm like, no, I was just out on the West Coast, did some of this, whatever. Or, I'm going somewhere in the next couple of weeks. I just got back from Emporia, from Masters Worlds. Oh yeah, okay. I forgot what I asked him. He said, yeah, things are going good, this and that. It's been kind of crazy because they actually just got their system hacked, along with
15,000 other dealerships.
Yeah, exactly. All these dealerships. So he's talking about doing things manually. We're going back and forth, and great conversation. And I was about to ask him, what courses he normally plays and this and that, because I don't recognize the gentleman. And local golfer, is a manager here at the car shop. All right. Fast forward 10 more minutes. My car's done. I'm going back to my computer to pack some stuff up. And he comes over and he goes, hey, man, I just got to say, I'm sorry. You are an exact doppelganger to our regional manager. And I thought you were Jason so-and-so.
So he had no clue about disc golf. He thought the southern swing was like some sort of like management thing, or like, hey, did you go down south for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at that point, I say to him, I'm sorry. I thought you were a disc golfer. I just assumed you were a local disc golfer. And you were talking to me about some disc golf stuff. It was a really funny moment to have with him.
Identity.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that there's another one out there that looks like me, but he was absolutely
should have fired him
convinced-
on the spot.
He was absolutely convinced that I was the regional manager or whatever over at this from this dealership. So it was a funny moment that
you
we
thought
shared.
you were cool and recognized, and
No.
you're not, Terry.
and I told him, I said, nothing for nothing. I said, somebody just stopped me, and we had a conversation with a gentleman at the airport the other day. I said, I do some online stuff. I said, I just assumed you were a local disc golfer, and I hadn't met you yet, and whatever. So I mean, it's not crazy that somebody thinks and I thought you maybe were a disc golfer, and so. It was a moment where we both were assuming who the other was. It was actually a really funny moment that we had there. So
I had an interaction today.
did somebody mistake you for
No,
something?
with a police officer.
Oh, okay, that sounds about right.
I got pulled over.
Yes, you did.
I haven't been pulled over in probably 15 years.
Really?
10 or
For
15
nothing
years?
ever?
Nothing. Terry, I am a stand-up citizen.
Eh.
Yeah. And I knew it the minute the cop pulled behind me because my plates are expired.
Well, today's July 1st,
Yep.
right? Still
Yep.
the 2nd. Today's the 2nd.
Today's the 2nd.
Holy cow. I forgot about yesterday. All right, so today's July 2nd. Did they expire June 30th?
No.
May. Whatever. End of May?
No.
April?
No.
Oh my gosh. March.
No.
February?
February. So
You low-life dirtbag.
I know. I'm the worst. So when was the last time you had to have an emissions test? Exactly.
Well, I have a
newer vehicle.
I
I have a 2009 vehicle that I like, and I used to always go to the oil change place right up the road from my house. I went there for a few years. They stopped doing it, so I started calling around.
Thanks, Obama.
No, it's thanks state of Wisconsin. So the state of Wisconsin used to have some emission centers that they closed down because they thought, hey, we'll just offload this to all these local businesses. They'll get all this business because people will come in,
get their oil change, get their emissions test.
What ended up happening was people were just going to the oil change places for emissions, taking up all their time, and oil change places are like, well, we don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
So they stopped doing it. So literally, as of March, the state or the city of Milwaukee or county or whoever it is ended up having to open their own emissions place again, which is in it looks like an old Jiffy Lube because I went there today. And
off of 91st and Mill?
No, off of Brown Deer and like 84th.
Okay.
So there's one down in Oak Creek as well. But yeah, so today I was driving, and I've known, like, I've literally been saying, like, I need to get this done. I need to get this done.
Because you have to get your emissions before I
can renew my plates.
They would let you renew.
Before they let me renew my
Oh,
plates.
my
And so
gosh.
it's just a pain. Because I remember
I know,
calling.
it's all of 3 minutes. I understand.
It's like a half hour out of my day, and it's the opposite direction. There is not one between my house and my office. So that's basically where I drive, up and down that street. And so I keep thinking, like, I got to do it. I never did. And then I knew when that cop pulled behind me today, I was like, oh, God, please let him turn off real soon. Don't look at my plates. I got to get this done.
Yeah, because he's not going to run.
He maybe doesn't run every plate he's behind.
But I'm saying, like, when you have a sticker.
But
and
you can see the sticker because it's bright yellow at the
Yeah.
24 versus, or the February versus whatever. So he pulled me over, gave me it's like a warning citation.
Yeah.
Basically saying it's no points if I go back to the city of Whitefish Bay or the police station tomorrow, now that I've got my plates renewed, that they'll get rid of the $89 fine. And I was like, okay, yes, I need to do that. So I ended up going right away. I got my emissions done. I sat there because, again, there's two places basically in the city now. And this woman, I got there at I thought I got there at 5:15. They closed at 6.
Mm.
And I thought, like, oh my God, everyone's going to be here. There's like 4 cars in line. Not too bad. But the woman, when I got out of the car, she was like, oh my Lord, it's been a day. And I'm like, yeah? She's like, we were backed up 15 cars because one of these stations went out and we had to get the tech guy to come in from this, like this, wherever their tech guy comes in from. She's like, you're lucky you can't. I was like, well, I expected it to be busy because it's the end of the day. Everyone's working during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, we busted through them, man. And I was like, well, good. I'm glad I only had to wait for 4 cars, I guess. So, but either way, I got my plates renewed.
That a boy.
Now I just have to do it in 6 more months, and probably get another emissions test.
Yeah,
because they
you
practically do it every
dirty.
year or 2, I think, for my car.
Yeah,
it's annoying. Because my car's got 120,000 miles on it. It's 2009.
That's it.
That's it. I tell you, Terry, I
gosh.
literally drive back and forth to work.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a Honda Fit. It should go another 100,000 miles. It just 7 miles back and forth basically every day.
Wow. Sam says lucky JVD didn't have Justin Timberlake.
That's right. Or Scotty Scheffler's.
Yeah.
No, he was really nice. And I'd been so long since I've been pulled over. So I was like, all right, do I keep my hands on the wheel? Do I,
visible hands on the wheel is a good spot.
Exactly. So right away it was sprinkling a little bit. And all I kept thinking is like, oh great, the cops got to get out in the rain. And now I know I'm going to get a ticket. But I immediately had my license out.
Where was this again?
It was in Whitefish Bay, right on Lake Drive.
Okay.
In Whitefish Bay. So,
huh.
So yeah, I had my license. He's like, do you know why I pulled you
man.
over? And I said, I'm guessing my expired plates. He's like, yep. He's like, they expired in February. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I gave him like
what
this,
bullshit? Could you possibly?
nothing.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, good.
I didn't know. I said
there's no.
I said, listen, the place I always go, but for years they stopped doing it, like a lot of places for emissions, so I didn't get it. And honestly, I've just put it off, and it's on me.
Yeah.
And I was 100% upfront and honest with him. I was the asshole.
There's no BSing for that many months.
No, God no.
I mean it's July 2nd, so if it went 2 days ago,
then
maybe.
I would be more upset. Like I could have said something like, and I thought about this, like, oh, this car, I only bring it out in the summer. I have a different car, a bigger car for the winter, so I didn't notice that the plates. I could have made up some BS like that.
Well, it wouldn't have mattered.
But it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, exactly. So I didn't. I was upfront, and now I need to go out of my way to go to the Whitefish Bay Police Department so they can run my plates and make sure that I'm re-registered again. But I haven't been pulled over in like 10
I was going to say that
15 years.
I don't even think it was the last time I was pulled over, but one of the times most recently I was pulled over was like a year ago leaving here.
Yeah.
And that's because I had my car and I had accidentally turned off my auto lights and I was driving through and it was 2 a.m. after I left and driving through town. And sure enough, the officer knew someone and he was a golfer and somehow whatever. But anyway, I just simply didn't have my lights on. And I remember thinking like, I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything. Why the hell are you pulling me over? And then as he was walking up, it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh. I turned off the auto for my lights, and with driving down the street, the half mile I had gone, I didn't notice that my lights weren't on yet. So obviously it was, very reasonable, and he sent me on my way. But yeah, that was one of the last times I've been pulled over.
Yeah,
that was only a year or so ago. I'm a knock on wood. I'm on an incredible record. If I've been pulled over 5 times in the last 10 years. Once every other year-ish?
Yeah.
0 tickets.
No tickets, yeah.
I love how they always say, well, how's your record? And I'm always like, oh, it's super clean. And then
it's always clean if no one gives me a ticket.
That's what I keep thinking. Like, I don't understand their logic to that.
Well, I'm sure they keep track of, like, they can run your plates and say, oh, this guy was pulled over a week ago, a year ago, or a year and a half ago, or whatever that is. So, yeah.
Ryan, I have watched that is a guilty pleasure of mine is watching cop interaction and videos, like audits and cop interactions.
Yeah,
I admitted this to Nate not too long ago. I am all in on them, and I have seen everything from the absolute worst people and offenders to the absolute worst cops and everything in between. I have seen way more videos than I'd care to admit. I'm unfortunately somewhat hooked on those. And so it makes me laugh when you said you're supposed to roll down your window, not roll down your window, and not answer questions and claim you're a sovereign citizen. Like, spoiler alert, those don't ever end well either. It's usually a half-cocked, just idiot that really has seen like as many YouTube videos as I have, but thinks they're going to outsmart the police officer. And I'm not saying all police officers are obviously, operating within the law either. I've seen plenty that don't do that either. But yeah, the sovereign citizen one is one that kind of makes me roll my eyes and chuckle, because at least 9 out of 10 times they just have no idea what they're talking about, and they think they can just spit out, "I'm a sovereign citizen," and they think they're just going to be.
No, what I do is you roll it all up, you take your keys out, you throw them on the dashboard. That's the key, because then you're not technically driving.
Yeah, then you're not driving,
and they can't get you. That's the rule. No, I felt privileged because he asked me. He's like, "All right, I had my license ready to go," and then he asked me, he's like, "Do you have proof of insurance?" And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking like, what's kind of proof of insurance? Like an insurance card? I started digging through my wallet. I'm like, no. And then I realized, no, I have it on my phone.
Yeah,
like
everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does. So I started to get my phone. He's like, whoa. Who's your insurance company? I said, it's Progressive. He's like, you're good. Don't sweat it. And I was like, okay, cool.
I'll remember that next time. I'm just going to say that too.
Yeah, I was about to like pull up my Progressive card and be like, oh yeah, here it's right here in my Apple Wallet, I think. Yeah, it's right here in my Apple Wallet. I was going to show him that.
Wow, that's even quicker access than most.
Oh yeah, Apple.
Like, I mean, no, I'm just saying. Yeah. I have an American family. I would just go in there and then download it because it updates every 6 months. Yeah. I would go in there and download it, and I'd have a PDF on my phone. But the fact that it's in your wallet, so to speak, is crazy.
Oh, it should update pretty soon because it says here my expired 6/28.
You go in tomorrow.
Oh no, this is. Oh no! Okay, I was looking at this one, expired 6/28/2021. Like, whoa! No, this one says 2024, which I think I just saw something that it auto renewed. So I might have to just go open up Progressive and make sure that it's up to date. But yeah, so it's Apple Wallet, man. Getting that Apple ecosystem there.
Yeah, there you go. I'll do it just for that, for when I get pulled over for not operating with the correct plates. Mm-hmm. Sam says, never surrender your rights, just like never calling yourself on a time violation. They have your insurance when they run your plates. Really?
I guess
that would make sense because your plates are tied. I didn't know that though. Huh. Anyway,
Carney says, here in Portland, I see a traffic cop like once or twice a year now. They literally quit enforcing traffic laws. I can understand that, but when I drive from downtown Milwaukee to my house, I go through some very nice neighborhoods because I take Lake Drive. So this is the road that's literally right on Lake Michigan. Those people pay a lot of money in taxes. And
they don't want no riffraff with you and your Honda Fit driving around with your expired ass plates.
That's right. The police take
I want to lock you up
very seriously in some of those areas.
Oh, that would be so great to lock you up.
It would be fun.
That would be. Well,
I'd go down kicking
with all
and
the money
buddy.
I'm making these days. I got a story. I've got the easiest way you could ever make money, and by that, a couple nights ago, I went and picked up our good friend Dustin. And he was coming home very late after a great disc golf trip. He got to play Maple Hill, and he's hanging out and camping and hanging out with other disc golfers from Wisconsin as he was out there. Great trip along the East Coast for him and all of them. Love it. Well, he came home after dealing with some delayed flights and whatnot. He gets home on late Sunday night, and I have offered to take him from the airport over to his car at his work, 10, 15 minutes away, whatever it is.
How much did you charge him? Did you turn on your Uber?
Yeah, I turned it on. And so I took him home. This was midnight or so is when he ends up getting in, or whatever time it was. It was pretty late. Yeah, I think it was after midnight. Take him home. And rather than taking our bypass, which is very, very much under construction for me to get back to my house 30 minutes away, instead of taking the bypass, I go through downtown Milwaukee. Different route, literally within seconds of the exact same time in terms of the overall distance. So I go that way. And I think to myself, I haven't been to our local casino in a while.
God, it's been forever since I've been there.
We have a good mutual friend that works there, who's a disc golfer. We hear plenty of his random stories and whatnot, but I haven't been there
stories
in a while. And I think, you know what? I'm going to go in there. Maybe I'll play.
Sit down at
I'll probably play.
$500 table.
Yeah, it's a $500 limits. Well, I get in there and immediately, it's called Potawatomi Casino. Snoop Dogg just performed there like 2 weeks ago, by the way. So it's not far from Marquette University, right in the heart of Milwaukee, and literally just 3 or 4 miles maybe from where the Brewers play, American Family Field. Not that any of this really matters, but downtown Milwaukee. So I go in, I park, I go into the ramp, I walk in, and immediately I'm like, holy cow, it has been a minute. I don't recognize anything because they've remodeled so extensively.
Okay.
This has to be Wisconsin's largest casino at the moment.
Yeah.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, easily.
So I walk in and just looking around, see some tables. It's relatively dead, for what I assume, for being 12:30 in the morning on a Sunday night. Apparently Sundays and Mondays are, in fact, there's some of their slower times. Understandable. Just walking around, end up watching some people play. Some people are at the blackjack tables, all the standard games. I sit and watch craps for the 10,000th time. I feel like I've said
Still
this before.
don't understand it.
I could watch craps for 8 hours, and if I didn't ask a question, I don't think I would know anything more after 8 hours of watching craps. I honestly, but then it's funny because when you talk to people about it, like, oh, it's so easy, and maybe it is, but if you're just like we're placed there to sit and watch it, it is a mind-numbingly confusing game.
Sure.
Anyway, I watch a lot of that. It always provides entertainment. There's so many highs and lows, right, of these people playing it. So I'm watching that for a while, and I'm just kind of looking around, and sure enough, and I don't play slots. I have this silly notion of occasionally playing roulette. I know it's a really dumb game in the chances department, but it's still fun to play. I decide I'm not going to play, but I watch a lot of other people play. I watch some woman win some crazy amount on a side bet where she put out $25 during her blackjack hand. She gets ace king. The dealer shows queen, so she gets this straight, and she wins like an extra $500 off this $25 side bet. All this good stuff. All of the blackjack tables, do you want to guess what the minimum was?
I would guess minimum is, I want to say 5, but that seems too low, so I'm going to say 10.
Try 25.
What?
At all. And we're talking, like, you go to a nice casino in Vegas, that's 100% normal. We're talking like dead time in Milwaukee, $25 table minimum.
Whoa.
And all I thought is, I don't want to sit down with the $100 bill that I have. That's all I have.
Yeah, it's like 4 hands.
Yeah, potentially. All I have is my backup $100 bill. It's the only bill I have in my wallet, which I was prepared to play with, but not at $25 a hand. I'm too cheap for that. So I keep walking, and then finally I'm like, okay, I've done enough people watching. I walked upstairs, downstairs, saw all the remodels. I'm like, I'm just going to get out of here. No big deal. I don't really care. There's still non-smoking in there, which for what it's worth is great. I think a lot of people avoid a lot of casinos simply because if you're not a smoker, you hate getting choked out by going into said environments. They have one section, large section within there that's smoking. And when you walk by the room, it obviously all comes out, and it's very powerful. So I'm walking out, making my way out. I'm a little turned around actually where I am, but I'm trying to find the right escalator to get up to the second floor where I came in. And sure enough, right there on the floor, $20 bill.
Well,
of course I pick it up. There was an individual that was kind of, but not really nearby, that was I think resting on a cash machine. Like the cash machine was holding her up.
Getting late.
And I don't think it was just alcohol. I don't know if she knew where she was. Maybe it was alcohol. I don't know. I don't care.
Blame it on that.
She was technically closest to the money, but her back was to it, and it's laying perfectly flat, a $20 bill. And I very much was like, hers? whose is that?
Hmm.
Meanwhile, I see like a security desk is 25 feet away, 30 feet away, like with someone sitting in it. I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. This is awkward.
You just take it. That's what I would do.
I pick it up.
If you don't know and
I am this close to genuinely tapping her on the shoulder, worrying about if I'm going to disrupt whatever frame of mind she's in, but I didn't. I picked it up. I put it in my pocket. I folded it in half. I put it in my pocket. And I started walking, and then all I thought to myself is, well, there's a million cameras. It's a casino. Yeah, whose is this? Where did this come from? Do they care? Do they know?
You could maybe go to the desk and say, hey, could you check and see if you see someone around here dropped a $20 bill? If not, I'm keeping it. I don't know. Or you just keep it, walk out. Congratulations.
So I walk out. Well, I take a picture of it first, actually, as I'm riding up the escalator, because all I'm thinking is, I didn't even have to gamble to get 20. I literally just was walking around. Well, here's the not so good part of the story.
Uh-oh.
I have since then found out, Glenn says I should have played it. No, I was literally on my way out, and all I thought is, how does it get better? I guess putting it in something
and then
winning more makes it better. But I was like, no, I'm literally not even gambling.
The dollar bill is covered in fentanyl.
Well, let's find out. Here it is. It's still here. Apparently, the casino does not have a finders keepers mentality. So had someone in a timely enough fashion said they lost it, got in touch with the right people at security checks the tape, finds out if I'm still there, they could have potentially approached me to ask for A, my ID, and then B, if I have the money. And then it sounds like they would potentially have escorted me out, maybe not, depending on maybe how compliant I was at that point. But interesting to hear. Here's the whole moral of the story is, at least at this casino, they apparently do not adhere to essentially a finders keepers.
I mean, which makes sense, because where do you draw that line? Like oh,
bingo.
I found $1,000 sitting on a table. Well, it was just sitting there.
Did somebody? Yeah. Or oh no, sir. No. This $1,000 was about to fall out of this woman's back pocket, and I just grabbed it before it fell. Like, there's more money exchanging there than literally anywhere else you'd go to. So I can understand. I'm not disputing the quote unquote policy. Yeah. So I'm going to go back down there tonight, and I'm going to. Yes, I am. I'm going to go back down there. I'm going to say, hey, if anybody lost this on Sunday night at roughly this time, I mean, I got a picture on my phone. I will let them know that if it needs to be claimed,
no,
here's your 20. Yes, I will.
No, you won't.
It was it was.
Blame the regional manager. Blame the automotive regional manager.
It was the guy from Mazda that did it. So anyway, that's a long story, but funny. Funny scenario. I'll say this: if it was, say, under this woman's foot or something, where I feel like I could for sure attribute it, I would have absolutely had no problem, tapping her on the shoulder and asking. Again, I don't even know what kind of state of mind she was. As silly as that may sound, that definitely played a factor in me wanting to approach her or not. The last thing I wanted is her to have some comment about some guy touching her or, tapping her or getting her attention or anything.
Sure.
I didn't want any of that to deal with either. Well, I'm sure somebody could chastise me or give me a hard time, but that's the way it went down, and I have no problem. Or if somebody came up to me and was like, "Oh, did you find mine?" I'm like, "Yeah, here, take it." But it was an interesting scenario. Could you imagine $20 bill too, as opposed to $100 or a stack of money? Could you imagine going up to the security desk and be like, "Here, I found this," and then somebody also coming up to the security desk and be like, "I lost $20."
I could see someone maybe like, "Oh, I think I dropped $20."
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody would do that in a casino.
Maybe. I don't know.
50,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it every casino now.
Roll your dice, right?
Yeah, like, hey, I think I misplaced.
Did somebody turn in $20? Yeah. Can you check the tape?
I think I dropped the $20.
I don't know. It was a funny scenario. A little piece of me wishes that she were closer to it for the fact that it would have been more obvious. But I'm still honestly not convinced it was hers, obviously. Otherwise, I would have asked her. But kind of silly.
You know who doesn't?
What if it's counterfeit? There you go. I could be in. I haven't spent it yet.
Again, lick it, see if it's real.
That's a good idea.
That's how you determine $20 bills. You lick them.
Okay. I'll let you lick it.
No, I said you. The finder has to lick it. That's part of the determination.
It's getting weird.
We have a finders keepers policy here, Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patreon.com. If I find your name on there, I'm keeping it on there. And you get to keep the disc we send you if we draw your name.
What?
Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Every week you're eligible for a giveaway. This week we have 130 people eligible for our giveaway. You can also be entered in if you go to SmashBoxx.tv/weekly giveaways and enter in every single week. You can put your name in there like some of our fine friends.
No purchase
online.
required.
No purchase required. So there is 130 person list here. And Terry, I have these sorted by first name A to Z. So why don't you tell me which release angle I should draw?
Put it at
how many RPMs?
The fourth angle, 4 degrees. So draw 4 numbers.
All right. The first number, once I can find my mouse, sorry. First number is 88. Second number is 32. Third number is 43. And the fourth and final number,
20.
15, Terry. 15. And 15, I have to scroll all the way up to the top. 15 is Brian P. Frawley.
Uh-oh.
Congratulations, Brian. You won Terry's tech disc. I'm just kidding. You didn't win this tech disc.
No, they already have one over there at Great Lakes Disc.
They do.
I don't know if they do. They should.
They should if they
We'll
don't.
get you a code.
We'll get you a code. So thank you, Brian, for being a Patreon supporter. We will. I'll get your information to Terry if he probably doesn't already have it, is my guess. But we'll get that out to you. So thank you very much.
I like it. Coincidentally, when we did something earlier in the evening, just before starting the show, we were on a podcast with Seth Fenley and overall part of the whole like Disc Golf Daily scenario. Brian does Disc Golf Daily as well, as he is a contributor over there.
Oh,
so
that's
make sure
cool.
you check that out. And, shop at Great Lakes Disc and all that other stuff that they don't pay us to say, but you can.
You can.
He won $20. Good call. I work at Wade says, I work at a casino over here. Money does not get returned unless it's already in a wallet with an ID.
Yeah, so my guess, let me guess. It goes, you turn it in. Hey, I found $50. Turn it in. They say, thank you, sir. You leave, no one claims it. Goes to the casino.
Probably, yeah, because you know they're not going to let the security guy have it. They're not going to probably let them split it. Maybe they put it in a tip jar that they let split, but I doubt it. Yeah, it probably goes. There's a reason we say that because the
casino
house
always wins,
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. I don't know if we have anything else that we need to touch on.
I don't think so. I prefer if you don't touch on me.
No, I can't make any promises. I'm just trying to look through some previous posts and updates. I'm not seeing anything else that needs to get addressed at the moment. So, with that, I guess we could close it out. It's been fun. Big thanks to the guys over at TechDisc for joining us in the regular show. I feel like we got a ton of great info. I don't know how many other podcasts they've done throughout the last year or two, but I feel like we extracted tons of info from them, and very accommodating to join us when they did. So I certainly appreciate it, and getting a little of that tech side along with the business side, all of that, pretty cool to see. With that, I guess we'll close it out. This has been 513's After Show. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a good weekend, taking in all of the Des Moines Challenge action. And next week, I may or may not be. I won't be alongside you. The question is, will I be online or not? I think I start my journey over to Norway next Tuesday night. So we'll have to figure out the timing, but we'll make it work one way or another. For Johnny V,
Yeah.
I'm the Disc Golf Guy. See you next week. You step inside the Smashbox.